Welcome, dear listener, to a journey through the captivating history of evolutionary thought. Before we embark, I invite you to pause for a moment and share in the comments where in the world you're joining us from and what time of day it is for you. I appreciate knowing how far our community of nighttime scientists reaches. If you enjoy immersing yourself in science and history as you drift off to sleep, consider subscribing for more soothing, educational storytelling like this. Now let us begin our tale, not in the present day, but nearly 2,400 years ago in ancient Greece. Imagine, if you will, the shimmering turquoise waters of the Aegean Sea lapping at the sun-drenched shores of Miletus. It's here that we meet one of the first recorded thinkers to propose a theory of evolution, Anaximander. Born around 610 BCE, Anaximander was a philosopher and scientist who dared to question the origins of life on Earth. In a time when most believed that the world and its creatures had always existed in their current forms, Anaximander suggested something radically different. He proposed that life had emerged from the primordial seas, and that simpler creatures had gradually given rise to more complex ones over vast spans of time. Anaximander imagined that the first animals had originated in the mud and seawater, encased in spiny bark. As they aged, they moved on to the drier parts of land, casting off their bark and adapting to life on shore. While his ideas might sound fanciful to modern ears, they represented a bold departure from prevailing views and sowed an early seed for evolutionary thinking. According to Anaximander, humans too had evolved from other animals. Specifically, he believed we had descended from a species of fish. He reasoned that human infants were too helpless to have survived in the distant past without parents to care for them, so our ancestors must have come from creatures that could fend for themselves from birth, like fish. While Anaximander's theories were speculative and lacked the evidence that would later support evolutionary thinking, his ideas were groundbreaking for their time. He had taken the first steps towards suggesting that life on Earth had changed and developed over time, rather than remaining static since its inception. As we bid farewell to Anaximander and the shimmering shores of ancient Greece, we must sail forward through the centuries to our next destination in history. The scene shifts to the flourishing intellectual culture of Baghdad during the Islamic Golden Age, around the 9th century CE. It's here that we encounter a remarkable scholar and pioneer in the history of evolutionary thought, Al-Jahiz. Born in Basra around 776 CE, Al-Jahiz was a prolific writer and thinker whose works spanned a vast range of topics, from theology and politics to natural history and zoology. He was known for his insatiable curiosity, his keen observations of the natural world, and his engaging, often humorous prose. In his Book of Animals, Al-Jahiz described the incredible diversity of life on Earth, from the tiniest insects to the most majestic mammals. But more than just cataloguing species, Al-Jahiz made some truly prescient observations about how living things interact with their environments and how they change over time. He noted that animals were engaged in a constant struggle for existence, competing for resources like food and shelter. Those that were better adapted to their environments, he reasoned, would be more likely to survive and pass on their traits to offspring. In this way, Al-Jahiz anticipated the concept of natural selection, the key mechanism that Charles Darwin would later propose as driving evolutionary change. Al-Jahiz also recognized the influence of environmental factors on the characteristics of animals. He observed that creatures living in different climates and habitats often had distinct features that helped them thrive in those particular conditions. For example, he noted that camels were well suited to life in the desert, with their long legs, padded feet, and ability to store water. While Al-Jahiz didn't propose a fully formed theory of evolution, his ideas about the struggle for existence, adaptation, and the role of the environment in shaping living things were remarkably prescient. They represented a significant advancement in thinking about the natural world and the relationships between organisms and their surroundings. As we leave the vibrant intellectual world of Baghdad and Al-Jahiz's insightful observations, we must continue our journey through time to witness the next major developments in evolutionary thought. The scene shifts once again, this time to the lush gardens and stately museums of Paris in the late 18th century. It's here that we meet two key figures who will help lay the groundwork for the theory of evolution: French naturalists Georges-Louis Leclerc, Comte de Buffon, and Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. Born into aristocracy in 1707, Buffon was a man of many talents and interests, from mathematics and cosmology to botany and zoology. As the director of the Royal Garden in Paris, he had access to a wealth of plant and animal specimens from around the world, which he studied with a keen and discerning eye. In his massive 36-volume work Histoire naturelle, Buffon meticulously described and classified the diversity of life on Earth. But he didn't just catalogue species, he also put forth some groundbreaking ideas about how they had come to be. Buffon proposed that the Earth was much older than the 6,000 years suggested by biblical accounts, a radical notion for the time. He believed that the planet had formed from the collision of a comet with the Sun, and had then cooled and developed over vast spans of time, allowing for the gradual emergence and diversification of life. While Buffon didn't propose a mechanism for how species changed over time, he did suggest that living things could degenerate or transform under the influence of environmental conditions. He even conducted experiments on plants and animals to test the effects of different climates and diets on their form and function. Buffon's ideas about the Earth's ancient history and the malleability of species were controversial in his time, and he faced criticism from religious authorities. Nonetheless, his work helped to challenge traditional views and to pave the way for the next major figure in our story of evolutionary thought, Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. Born in 1744, Lamarck was a soldier, botanist, and zoologist who made some of the first truly cohesive arguments for the evolution of species. Building on Buffon's ideas about the age of the Earth and the effects of the environment on living things, Lamarck developed a theory of the gradual transformation of species over time. In his most famous work, Philosophie zoologique, published in 1809, Lamarck proposed that species were not fixed and unchanging, but rather were constantly adapting to their environments through the inheritance of acquired characteristics. According to Lamarck's theory, an animal that repeatedly used a particular organ or structure would see that body parts strengthened and enlarged over the course of its life. Conversely, organs that went unused would shrink and deteriorate. Crucially, Lamarck believed that these changes could then be passed down to the animal's offspring, accumulating over generations to produce entirely new species. To illustrate his ideas, Lamarck used the example of the giraffe. He suggested that ancestral giraffes had started out with short necks, but had stretched them repeatedly to reach high leaves. Over time, and through the inheritance of this acquired long-neck trait, Lamarck argued that giraffes had evolved from their short-necked ancestors into the lanky creatures we know today. While Lamarck's theory of the inheritance of acquired characteristics would later be disproven, his ideas were hugely influential in the development of evolutionary thought. He was one of the first to propose a coherent mechanism for the transformation of species, and to argue that all living things, including humans, had descended from earlier forms through a process of gradual change. As we bid adieu to Lamarck and the lush gardens of Paris, our story of evolutionary thought is about to take a dramatic turn. The scene shifts to a bustling port in England, where a young naturalist named Charles Darwin is about to embark on a fateful voyage around the world, a journey that will forever change our understanding of life on Earth. But before we set sail with Darwin on the HMS Beagle, let us take a moment to pause and reflect on the groundbreaking ideas of those who came before him. From Anaximander's musings on the origins of life in the primordial seas to Alcestis's observations of adaptation and the struggle for existence, to Buffon and Lamarck's theories of the transformation of species, the stage had been set for a revolution in our understanding of the living world. Each of these thinkers, in their own way, had begun to chip away at the long-held view of species as fixed and unchanging, divinely created entities. They had introduced the radical notions of deep time, environmental influence, and organic change into the discourse around the diversity of life, and they had laid the groundwork for the profound insights that Darwin would soon bring to light. As the HMS Beagle set sail from Plymouth Harbour in late 1831, a gentle breeze ripples the water's surface. The creaking of the ship's timbers and the cries of gulls fill the air as Darwin takes one last look at the receding shoreline. Little does he know that the observations and collections he will make on this voyage will forever alter the course of scientific history. But for now, dear listener, let us pause our tale and allow the soothing sounds of the sea to lull us into a restful state. Take a deep breath, feel the gentle rocking of the ship, and let your mind drift with the currents of evolutionary thought. When we return, we will join Darwin on his incredible journey and witness the birth of a theory that will reshape our understanding of life itself. Until then, sleep well, knowing that you are part of a grand and ancient story, a twig on the majestic tree of life that has been growing and changing for billions of years. Your dreams tonight may be filled with the wonders of the natural world, the mysteries of science, and the marvels of history that have brought us to this moment. And so, as the HMS Beagle fades into the distance and the stars begin to twinkle overhead, I bid you a fond good night. May the gentle rhythms of nature guide you into a peaceful slumber, and may the story of evolution continue to unfold in your imagination as you drift off to sleep. Good night, dear listener, and sweet dreams. As the gentle embrace of sleep draws ever nearer, let us continue our exploration of evolution's grand narrative, tracing the fascinating tale from Darwin's groundbreaking discoveries to the myriad revelations of modern science. In the years following the publication of On the Origin of Species, a growing chorus of researchers sought to extend and refine Darwin's transformative ideas. Among them was German biologist August Weismann, who in the late 1800s helped solidify the concept of hard inheritance, the notion that traits acquired during an organism's lifetime cannot be passed to offspring. Weismann's work dealt a critical blow to Lamarckian ideas of evolution, setting the stage for a more rigorous understanding of heredity. Weismann also introduced the concept of the germ plasm, the idea that a distinct set of cells gives rise to reproductive cells, separate from the rest of the body. This insight foreshadowed the discovery of DNA and genes, the molecular basis of inheritance that would later revolutionize our understanding of evolution. As the 20th century dawned, a new generation of scientists began to unite Darwin's theory of natural selection with Mendel's laws of inheritance, forging the modern synthesis of evolutionary biology. One key architect of this synthesis was American biologist Theodosius Dobzhansky, whose work in the 1930s and 40s helped bridge the gap between genetics and evolution. Dobzhansky's research on fruit flies demonstrated how genetic mutations could fuel evolutionary change, providing a mechanism for the variations that natural selection acts upon. He also showed how geographic isolation could lead to the formation of new species, as populations accumulate distinct genetic differences over time. Dobzhansky's seminal work, Genetics and the Origin of Species, helped lay the foundation for the modern understanding of evolution. Another titan of the modern synthesis was German biologist Ernst Mayr, whose contributions to evolutionary thought spanned an astonishing 8 decades. Mayr's work in the 1940s and 50s helped clarify the concept of species and the mechanisms of speciation, the process by which new species arise. Mayr emphasized the importance of geographic isolation and reproductive barriers in the formation of new species, noting how populations that become separated can evolve independently and diverge over time. He also championed the biological species concept, defining species as groups of actually or potentially interbreeding natural populations reproductively isolated from other such groups. Mayr's ideas helped unite the study of evolution at multiple scales, from the level of genes and populations to the grand diversity of species we observe in nature. His influence extended well beyond his scientific contributions, as he tirelessly promoted evolutionary biology to the public and fought to keep evolution at the center of biological education. As the modern synthesis took hold, researchers began to uncover compelling new evidence for evolution from a surprising source: molecules. In the 1960s, biochemists Emil Zucker-Kandel and Linus Pauling pioneered the field of molecular evolution, demonstrating how the similarities and differences in proteins across species could shed light on evolutionary relationships. Zucker-Kandel and Pauling realized that the sequences of amino acids and proteins could serve as molecular clocks, ticking at a roughly constant rate over evolutionary time. By comparing protein sequences across species, they could estimate how long ago different lineages diverged from a common ancestor. This work laid the groundwork for the use of molecular data in constructing evolutionary trees and inferring the relationships among species. As techniques for sequencing DNA emerged in the 1970s and 80s, the molecular revolution in evolutionary biology kicked into high gear. Researchers could now directly compare the genetic codes of different species, revealing the evolutionary histories written in the language of DNA. One of the most stunning insights to emerge from this work was the confirmation that all life shares a common genetic code. the same basic set of molecular instructions for building proteins. From bacteria to bonobos, daffodils to dinosaurs, every living organism uses the same genetic language, pointing to a universal ancestor from which all life descended. Molecular studies also began to shed light on the mechanisms of evolution at the most fundamental level. Researchers discovered mobile genetic elements and jumping genes that could rearrange chromosomes and fuel the emergence of new traits. They uncovered the molecular basis of mutations, the random changes in DNA that provide the raw material for natural selection. And they began to map the intricate networks of genes that underlie the development and function of organisms, revealing how evolution tinkers with these networks to produce the stunning diversity of life. As the 20th century drew to a close, evolutionary biology stood poised for even greater discoveries, armed with powerful new tools and a deepening understanding of life's origins and workings. In the first decades of the 21st century, this promise has been richly fulfilled, as evolution has become a lens for making sense of the living world in all its remarkable complexity. One of the most significant developments of recent years has been the emergence of evolutionary developmental biology, or Evo-Devo. This field explores how evolution shapes the processes of development, from the first steps of an embryo to the final form of an adult organism. Evo-Devo researchers have uncovered deep homologies among disparate creatures, revealing that the same basic genetic toolkit underlies the development of animals as different as flies and mice. They have shown how small changes in the timing or location of gene expression can lead to dramatic evolutionary transformations, such as the origin of insect wings or the diversification of vertebrate limbs. And they have begun to illuminate the evolutionary origins of key innovations, such as the nervous system or the ability to produce milk. Beyond Evo-Devo, evolutionary thinking has infiltrated virtually every corner of biology, from the study of disease to the preservation of endangered species. Researchers have harnessed evolution to create new medicines and materials, to predict the spread of pathogens and pests, and to guide conservation efforts in a rapidly changing world. Evolutionary approaches have also shed light on human origins and behaviour, revealing the deep roots of our species and the evolutionary forces that have shaped our minds and societies. From the spread of ancient hominins out of Africa to the rise of language and culture, evolutionary perspectives offer profound insights into the human story. Yet even as the evidence for evolution has grown overwhelming, challenges to its teaching and acceptance have remained a stubborn feature of public discourse. From the Scopes, monkey trial of 1925 to the legal battles over intelligent design in the early 2000s, the teaching of evolution in schools has been a flashpoint for controversy, particularly in the United States. At the heart of these debates lies a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of science and the strength of the evidence for evolution. Far from being just a theory, evolution is supported by an immense and ever-growing body of evidence from fields as diverse as genetics, geology, and comparative anatomy. It is the unifying framework that makes sense of the living world, tying together otherwise disparate facts into a coherent understanding of life's history and workings. As we contemplate the remarkable story of evolution, from Darwin's voyages to the cutting edge of modern research, we are reminded of the enduring power of science to illuminate the workings of nature. Through careful observation, rigorous experimentation, and creative insight, generations of researchers have peeled back the layers of life's complexity to reveal the elegant principles that underlie the diversity of the living world. And at the heart of this grand narrative lies a simple yet profound idea, that all life is connected, shaped by the ceaseless action of evolution over vast expanses of time. From the tiniest microbe to the mightiest mammal, every creature bears the marks of this shared history, written in the language of DNA and the scars of natural selection. As we drift off to sleep, let us marvel at the extraordinary story of evolution and the countless researchers who have devoted their lives to unravelling its mysteries. For in the end, the tale of evolution is not just a scientific saga, but a deeply human one, a testament to our unending quest to understand the world around us and our place within it. And so, as the veil of slumber descends, we can rest easy in the knowledge that the great tree of life continues to grow and change, guided by the timeless principles of evolution. May our dreams be filled with visions of this grand tapestry, ever evolving, ever beautiful, connecting us all in the endless dance of life. As we ponder the intricate web of life shaped by evolutionary forces, let's turn our gaze to some of the key figures who helped unravel this grand mystery. One such luminary was Lynn Margulis, an American biologist who made groundbreaking discoveries in the 1960s and 70s. Margulis was fascinated by the complex relationships between organisms, particularly at the microscopic level. She noticed that certain organelles within cells, such as mitochondria and chloroplasts, bore a striking resemblance to free-living bacteria. This observation led her to propose a radical idea, that these organelles were once independent organisms that had been engulfed by larger cells in a process called endosymbiosis. At first, Margulis's hypothesis was met with skepticism from the scientific community. The notion that cooperation, rather than competition, could drive major evolutionary innovations seemed counterintuitive. But Margulis persisted, accumulating evidence from cell biology, genetics, and microbiology to support her case. Over time, the tide began to turn. Scientists discovered that mitochondria and chloroplasts contained their own DNA, distinct from the DNA in a cell's nucleus. This DNA bore uncanny similarities to that of certain bacteria, just as Margulis had predicted. Gradually, the endosymbiotic theory gained acceptance, and today it stands as a cornerstone of our understanding of cell evolution. Margulis's work underscored the importance of cooperation in the history of life. While competition and survival of the fittest were certainly important, she showed that collaboration between organisms could also be a powerful evolutionary force. This insight reshaped our view of life's history, revealing it to be a complex tapestry of relationships, symbioses, and partnerships. Beyond her scientific contributions, Margulis was known for her bold and uncompromising personality. She challenged conventional wisdom, pushed boundaries, and inspired a new generation of scientists to think deeply about the intricate connections that bind all life together. Her legacy reminds us that even in the competitive world of science, cooperation and collaboration can yield transformative results. As we contemplate Margulis's enduring impact, our mind drifts to another pioneer who helped illuminate evolution's molecular foundations, Moto Kimura. In the 1960s, Kimura, a Japanese biologist, grappled with a puzzling observation. Many genetic differences between organisms seem to have little impact on their outward appearance or survival. This realization led Kimura to propose the neutral theory of molecular evolution. He argued that the majority of genetic changes at the molecular level were neither beneficial nor harmful, but rather neutral in their effects. These neutral mutations, Kimura suggested, could spread through populations by chance, rather than being shaped by natural selection. Kimura's ideas sparked a lively debate among evolutionary biologists. Some saw the neutral theory as a challenge to the primacy of natural selection, while others viewed it as a complement, shedding light on the complex interplay of chance and selection in shaping genetic diversity. Over time, the neutral theory gained support from molecular data. Scientists discovered that the rates of molecular change often seem to tick along at a steady pace, largely independent of the organism's lifestyle or environment. This pattern was difficult to explain through natural selection alone, but fit well with Kimura's idea of neutral drift. Today, the neutral theory is seen as an important component of evolutionary change, alongside natural selection and other factors. It helps explain the vast reservoirs of genetic diversity within and between species and sheds light on the intricate molecular record of life's history. Kimura's work also had practical implications. By providing a framework for understanding the pace and pattern of molecular change, the neutral theory laid the groundwork for the molecular clock, a tool that allows scientists to estimate the timing of evolutionary events based on genetic differences between species. This technique has proven invaluable for reconstructing life's family tree and dating key milestones in evolutionary history. Beyond his scientific accomplishments, Kimura was known for his rigorous mathematical approach to biology. He helped pioneer the use of statistical models to study evolution at the molecular level, paving the way for the rise of modern computational biology. His work exemplified the power of combining theoretical insights with empirical data to unravel the complexities of life. As we reflect on the legacies of Lynn Margulis and Moto Kimura, we're reminded that the story of evolution is one of continuous discovery and refinement. Each generation of scientists builds upon the insights of the past, adding new layers to our understanding of life's intricate history. And so, as we drift deeper into the realm of sleep, let our minds wander through the grand tapestry of life, woven over billions of years by the complex interplay of chance, selection, cooperation, and molecular change. From the first stirrings of self-replicating molecules to the rise of multicellular organisms and the flowering of mind-boggling diversity, the story of evolution is one that encompasses us all. As we ponder our own place in this vast and ancient web, we find a sense of kinship with all living things, bound together by the shared legacy of evolutionary change. And while the journey of discovery is far from over, each new insight only deepens our appreciation for the magnificent complexity and unity of life on Earth. So let us embrace the mystery and the wonder, the unanswered questions and the tantalizing possibilities. For in the grand story of evolution, we are all explorers, forever seeking to unravel the secrets of the living world and our place within it. And as we drift off into the peaceful depths of slumber, we can rest assured that the quest for understanding will continue, guided by the curiosity and passion of scientists yet to come. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with the beauty and mystery of life's endless unfolding. As the first golden rays of dawn illuminate the distant horizon, we find ourselves transported to the sun-baked islands of the Galapagos, nearly 600 miles off the coast of Ecuador. Here, against a backdrop of stark lava fields, towering volcanoes and turquoise waters, a remarkable story of evolution unfolds, one that would forever change our understanding of life on Earth. In September 1835, a young naturalist named Charles Darwin first set foot on these isolated shores as part of a 5-year voyage aboard the HMS Beagle. Just 26 years old at the time, Darwin could scarcely have imagined the profound impact his visit to these islands would have on his life's work and on the course of scientific history. As he explored the rugged terrain, Darwin encountered a striking array of plants and animals, many of which existed nowhere else on the planet. Giant tortoises lumbered slowly across the volcanic soil, some reaching nearly 5 feet in length and weighing over 500 pounds. Marine iguanas, black and scaly, basked in the equatorial sun, while flightless cormorants darted through the shallow waters, their wings having long since traded the power of flight for the pursuit of underwater prey. But it was the island's birds, particularly the unassuming finches, that would provide Darwin with some of his most important insights into the workings of evolution. As he collected specimens and made meticulous notes, Darwin observed that the finches inhabiting different islands possessed distinctive beak shapes, each exquisitely adapted to exploiting the food sources of their particular environments. On one island, he found finches with long, slender beaks, perfectly suited for probing cactus flowers for nectar and insects. On another, the birds displayed short, stout beaks, ideal for cracking open the tough seeds that littered the ground. And on yet another, the finches boasted medium-sized beaks, versatile tools for a generalist diet of seeds, insects, and even small reptiles. The more Darwin studied these birds, the more he became convinced that they must all be descended from a common ancestor, one that had long ago colonized the islands from the South American mainland. Over countless generations, he reasoned, the ancestral finch population had gradually diversified, each lineage adapting to fill a unique ecological niche through the power of natural selection. This realization was a defining moment for the young naturalist. If the finches of the Galapagos could undergo such transformations in response to differing environmental pressures, then perhaps the same process could account for the diversity of life everywhere on Earth. The seeds of a revolutionary idea had been planted in Darwin's mind, one that would forever alter our perception of the living world and our place within it. As Darwin continued his explorations of the Galapagos, he encountered further evidence of evolution's handiwork at every turn. The island's mocking birds, like the finches, displayed a remarkable degree of diversification from one island to the next. Giant tortoises, too, exhibited subtle differences in shell shape, depending on their island of origin, hinting at the role of isolation and adaptation in driving the emergence of new forms. Even the seemingly mundane snails that clung to the island's vegetation provided clues to the evolutionary process. Darwin noticed that the snails on one island possessed slightly different shell patterns and shapes compared to those on neighbouring islands, suggesting that they had diverged from a common ancestor over time. Everywhere he looked, Darwin found signs that the living world was not static and unchanging, but rather in a constant state of flux, with species gradually transforming in response to the ever-shifting pressures of their environments. The Galapagos, with their unique assemblage of plants and animals, had provided him with a microcosm of evolution in action, a living laboratory in which the fundamental principles of descent with modification could be observed and studied. As the HMS Beagle prepared to depart the islands after 5 momentous weeks, Darwin could not have fully grasped the significance of the observations and collections he had made. The full implications of his Galapagos experience would only become clear in the years that followed, as he painstakingly pieced together the evidence for his groundbreaking theory of evolution by natural selection. But the seeds had been sown, and the young naturalist's view of the living world had been forever transformed. The Galapagos had opened Darwin's eyes to the incredible power of evolution to shape the diversity of life on Earth, and to the deep connections that link all living things in a vast, ever-changing web of ancestry and adaptation. As we leave the islands behind, the sun slowly sinking beneath the shimmering expanse of the Pacific, we can almost imagine Darwin standing on the deck of the Beagle, his mind awhirl with the profound implications of his discoveries. Little could he have known that his time in this remote archipelago would lay the foundation for a theory that would revolutionize our understanding of the natural world and our place within it. The Galapagos had spoken, and Charles Darwin had listened, setting in motion a scientific and intellectual journey that would forever change the course of human knowledge. And as we drift off to sleep, our dreams carry us back to those enchanted islands, where the secrets of life's endless forms, most beautiful first, began to unveil themselves to a young naturalist with an insatiably curious mind and an unwavering passion for the truth. Years pass, and we find ourselves in the heart of Victorian England, where Charles Darwin, now a respected naturalist and geologist, has returned from his epical voyage aboard the HMS Beagle. The year is 1837, and Darwin, ensconced in his study at his family home in Down, Kent, is poring over the copious notes, specimens and observations he gathered during his travels. As he sifts through the evidence, Darwin's mind turns again and again to the remarkable creatures he encountered in the Galapagos, and to the tantalizing hints of evolutionary change he observed in their varied forms. The finches, the mockingbirds, the tortoises, all seem to point to a world in flux, where species gradually transform over time in response to the pressures of their environments. But Darwin knows that his ideas about evolution are still inchoate, lacking the rigorous scientific underpinnings that would be necessary to convince his colleagues and the wider world of their truth. He understands that he must build a case, brick by painstaking brick, drawing on evidence from a wide range of disciplines to support his nascent theory. And so, with characteristic thoroughness and attention to detail, Darwin sets to work. He corresponds with experts in fields ranging from botany and zoology to geology and biogeography, seeking their insights and advice. He pores over the scientific literature, absorbing the latest discoveries and ideas in the natural sciences. And he conducts his own experiments and observations, meticulously documenting the results in his ever-growing collection of notebooks. As the months and years pass, Darwin's ideas begin to take shape. He comes to see evolution not as a sudden or cataclysmic process, but as a slow, gradual one, unfolding over vast stretches of geological time. He grapples with the question of how new species arise, and comes to believe that it is through the accumulation of small, incremental changes, each one providing a slight advantage in the struggle for survival. And at the heart of Darwin's emerging theory lies the concept of natural selection, the idea that those individuals best adapted to their environments will survive and reproduce at higher rates than their less well-equipped counterparts, thereby gradually shifting the characteristics of populations over time. It is a simple yet profound insight, one that will forever change our understanding of the living world. But even as Darwin's ideas crystallize in his mind, he hesitates to share them with the world. He knows that his theory will be controversial, challenging deeply held beliefs about the origins and nature of life on Earth. He fears the reaction of his devoutly religious wife, Emma, and the impact that his ideas may have on their relationship and family life. And so Darwin continues to work in secret, refining his ideas and gathering ever more evidence to support them. He begins to sketch out the outlines of a book that will lay out his theory in detail, a work that he provisionally titles On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection. But fate has other plans in store for Charles Darwin. In the summer of 1858, he receives a letter from a young naturalist named Alfred Russel Wallace, who has independently arrived at a theory of evolution almost identical to Darwin's own. Wallace's letter, written from the remote Indonesian island of Ternate, sends shockwaves through Darwin's world, forcing him to confront the possibility that he may be scooped by a rival scientist. In a panic, Darwin turns to his friends and colleagues for advice. He shares his own work with them, revealing the depth and breadth of his thinking on evolution and natural selection. And with their encouragement and support, he decides to present his ideas alongside Wallace's at a meeting of the Linnean Society in London on July 1st, 1858. The joint presentation is a turning point for Darwin, marking the moment when his revolutionary ideas first enter the public domain. But it is only the beginning of a long and often controversial journey, as Darwin works to marshal the evidence and arguments that will ultimately convince the scientific world of the truth of evolution. As we lie in the darkness, our minds drifting towards sleep, we can almost picture Darwin in his study, hunched over his desk by candlelight, his pen scratching furiously across the pages of his notebooks. We can sense the weight of the ideas that he is grappling with, the dawning realization that he has stumbled upon a truth that will forever change our understanding of the living world. And as we finally surrender to the embrace of slumber, our dreams carry us back to those early days of evolutionary thought, when a quiet, unassuming man from the English countryside dared to challenge the very foundations of our beliefs about the nature and origins of life on Earth. For in the story of Charles Darwin and the birth of his theory of evolution, we find a testament to the power of the human mind to unravel the deepest mysteries of the natural world, and to the courage and perseverance of those who dare to follow the evidence wherever it may lead. The scene shifts, and we find ourselves transported to the year 1859, a momentous time in the history of science and human understanding. After more than 2 decades of painstaking research, meticulous experimentation, and agonizing self-doubt, Charles Darwin is finally ready to unveil his masterwork to the world. On November the 24th, 1859, On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection is published in London, and the impact is immediate and profound. In the pages of this groundbreaking book, Darwin lays out the evidence for evolution in meticulous detail, drawing on examples from the fossil record, comparative anatomy, embryology, biogeography, and more. He describes the struggle for existence that plays out in every corner of the natural world, as organisms compete for limited resources and strive to pass on their genes to the next generation. And he argues that it is through this ceaseless struggle, and the differential survival and reproduction of individuals with favourable variations, that species gradually change and adapt over time. Darwin's prose is elegant and incisive, his arguments carefully crafted and supported by a wealth of empirical evidence. He anticipates the objections of his critics, addressing them head-on with a combination of logic, reason, and incontrovertible fact, and he presents his ideas with a clarity and force that leave no doubt as to the depth of his conviction and the soundness of his science. As copies of The Origin begin to circulate among the intellectual elite of Victorian England, the reaction is swift and polarised. Some hail the book as a triumph of scientific inquiry, a bold and brilliant explanation for the diversity and complexity of life on Earth. Others denounce it as a heretical and dangerous attack on the very foundations of religion and morality. But amidst the swirling controversy and heated debate, there is no denying the profound impact that Darwin's ideas have had on the scientific world. His theory of evolution by natural selection provides a powerful framework for understanding the history and diversity of life, and opens up new avenues of research and discovery in fields ranging from paleontology and genetics to ecology and behaviour. In the years that follow, Darwin's ideas will be tested, challenged, and refined by generations of scientists and thinkers. New evidence will emerge, new insights will be gained, and the theory of evolution will become one of the most robust and well-supported scientific paradigms in history. But for now, in the immediate aftermath of The Origin's publication, Charles Darwin can only watch and wait as his life's work takes on a life of its own. He knows that he has set in motion a revolution in human understanding, one that will forever change the way we view ourselves and our place in the natural world. As we lie in the stillness of the night, our thoughts drifting back to that pivotal moment in history, we can almost feel the weight of Darwin's achievement bearing down upon us. For in the pages of The Origin, he has given us a glimpse into the very fabric of life itself, revealing the intricate web of relationships and adaptations that bind all living things together in a vast and ancient family tree. And as we finally surrender to the call of sleep, our minds alight with the wonder and beauty of the evolutionary process, we can take comfort in the knowledge that we are all part of something greater than ourselves, a grand and ever-unfolding story of life on Earth, written in the language of genes and shaped by the inexorable forces of natural selection. For in the end, the publication of On the Origin of Species marks not just a triumph of scientific discovery, but a testament to the enduring power of the human mind to unravel the deepest mysteries of the universe. And in the quiet moments before sleep claims us, we can marvel at the incredible journey that has brought us to this point, and at the boundless possibilities that lie ahead as we continue to explore the wonders of the natural world. As the 20th century dawns, the science of evolution stands on the brink of a new era of discovery and synthesis. In the decades since the publication of Darwin's On the Origin of Species, a wealth of new evidence has emerged to support and expand upon his groundbreaking ideas. From the unearthing of spectacular fossil finds to the development of sophisticated mathematical models of population genetics, the study of evolution has become a vibrant and rapidly advancing field of scientific inquiry. At the forefront of this new wave of evolutionary thought stands a group of brilliant and dedicated scientists, each working to push the boundaries of our understanding of the natural world. One of the most influential of these figures is Theodosius Dobzhansky, a Russian-born geneticist and evolutionary biologist, whose work will help to lay the foundations for the modern synthesis of evolutionary theory. Born in 1900 in the Ukrainian town of Nemiriv, Dobzhansky shows an early aptitude for science and a fascination with the natural world. He studies biology at the University of Kiev, where he becomes enamored with the emerging field of genetics and its potential to shed light on the mechanisms of evolutionary change. In 1927, Dobzhansky immigrates to the United States, where he takes up a position at Columbia University in New York City. There, he begins a series of groundbreaking experiments on the genetics of fruit flies, using the tiny insects as a model system to study the underlying principles of inheritance and variation. Through his work with fruit flies, Dobzhansky makes a number of key discoveries that help to bridge the gap between genetics and evolution. He demonstrates that natural selection can act on individual genes, shaping the genetic composition of populations over time. He shows that new species can arise through the accumulation of genetic differences between isolated populations, and he develops mathematical models to describe the complex interplay of mutation, selection, and drift in driving evolutionary change. But perhaps Dobzhansky's most enduring contribution to evolutionary biology comes in the form of his 1937 book, Genetics and the Origin of Species. In this landmark work, Dobzhansky synthesizes the latest findings from genetics, paleontology, and other fields to present a unified and compelling vision of the evolutionary process. Central to Dobzhansky's synthesis is the idea that evolution is a population-level phenomenon, driven by the interplay of genetic variation, natural selection, and other factors. He argues that the key to understanding the origin of new species lies not in the study of individual organisms, but in the analysis of entire populations and the complex web of interactions between them. Dobzhansky's ideas have a profound impact on the field of evolutionary biology, helping to usher in a new era of research and discovery. His work inspires a generation of scientists to explore the genetic basis of evolutionary change and to develop new mathematical and experimental tools for studying the process in action. As we lie in the quiet of the night, our minds drifting back to those early days of the modern synthesis, we can almost sense the excitement and energy that must have filled the halls of Columbia University and other centres of evolutionary research. We can picture Dobzhansky hunched over his microscope, peering intently at the tiny fruit flies that held the keys to unlocking the secrets of evolution. And we can marvel at the incredible progress that he and his colleagues made in advancing our understanding of the natural world. For in the end, the story of Theodosius Dobzhansky and the modern synthesis of evolutionary theory is a testament to the power of scientific inquiry to illuminate even the most complex and mysterious corners of the universe. And as we drift off to sleep, our dreams carry us back to that golden age of discovery when a handful of brilliant and dedicated scientists dared to ask the biggest questions of all and found the answers waiting for them in the tiny wings of a fruit fly. As the 20th century unfolds, the science of evolution continues to advance at a breathtaking pace, propelled forward by a new generation of brilliant and innovative researchers. Among the most influential of these figures is a quiet, unassuming man named Sewall Wright, whose groundbreaking work in population genetics will help to reshape our understanding of the evolutionary process. Born in 1889 in Melrose, Massachusetts, Wright shows an early aptitude for mathematics and a keen interest in the natural world. He studies biology and genetics at Harvard University, where he becomes fascinated by As we ponder the intricacies of evolution, our minds may wander to other great thinkers who grappled with the origins and diversity of life. One such visionary was Alfred Russel Wallace, the brilliant naturalist who independently arrived at the theory of evolution by natural selection. Though often overshadowed by Darwin's fame, Wallace's contributions to evolutionary thought were no less remarkable. Born in 1823 in the Welsh village of Llanbadog, Wallace grew up in modest circumstances. He attended school until the age of 13, but his real education came from his insatiable curiosity about the natural world. As a young man, he worked as a surveyor and teacher, but his true passion was collecting insects and studying the intricacies of nature. In 1848, Wallace embarked on a scientific expedition to the Amazon rainforest with his friend Henry Walter Bates. For 4 years, they explored the lush jungle, marvelling at the incredible diversity of life and collecting countless specimens. But tragedy struck when Wallace's ship caught fire on his return journey, destroying most of his meticulously gathered collections and notes. Undaunted, Wallace set out again in 1854, this time to the Malay archipelago, where he would spend 8 years immersed in the study of the region's flora and fauna. As he journeyed from island to island, observing the subtle variations among species, Wallace began to form his own ideas about the evolution of life. Like Darwin, Wallace was struck by the way organisms seemed perfectly adapted to their environments. He noticed that related species often inhabited neighbouring islands, each with its own unique variations, and he observed that the geological history of the island seemed to influence the distribution and adaptations of the creatures living there. As he pondered these patterns, Wallace arrived at a startling insight, that new species could arise from existing ones through a process of gradual change, driven by the survival and reproduction of individuals with advantageous traits. In a flash of brilliance, he sketched out the basic principles of evolution by natural selection. Eager to share his discovery, Wallace penned an essay outlining his theory and sent it to Charles Darwin, hoping for his feedback. Little did Wallace know that Darwin had been quietly developing the same ideas for over 2 decades. Shocked by the uncanny similarity of their independent insights, Darwin arranged for Wallace's essay to be presented alongside his own work at a scientific meeting in 1858. The following year, Darwin published On the Origin of Species, the book that would forever change our understanding of the living world. While Darwin's name became synonymous with evolution, Wallace graciously acknowledged his colleague's priority and continued to champion the theory throughout his life. Wallace's own work, however, extended far beyond evolution. He made seminal contributions to biogeography, the study of how species are distributed across the globe. His meticulous observations of the fauna of the Malay archipelago led him to propose the Wallace Line, a boundary that separated the evolutionary realms of Asia and Australia. He also became a vocal advocate for social and political causes, speaking out against slavery, colonialism, and inequality. He was a pioneer in the study of spiritualism and believed in the possibility of communication with the deceased, a view that put him at odds with the scientific establishment. Yet despite his unconventional beliefs, Wallace remained a rigorous scientist and a tireless advocate for the power of evidence and reason. He continued to publish groundbreaking works on a wide range of subjects, from glaciology to astrobiology, until his death in 1913 at the age of 90. Today, as we unravel the secrets of genomes and trace the intricate family trees of life, we stand on the shoulders of giants like Wallace and Darwin. Their insights laid the foundation for the modern understanding of evolution, illuminating the beautiful tapestry of life in all its diversity and interconnectedness. And so, as we drift off into the realm of dreams, let us remember the quiet brilliance of Alfred Russel Wallace, the unsung hero of evolution. May his story remind us that great ideas can spring from unlikely places, that the pursuit of knowledge knows no boundaries, and that the wonders of nature are waiting to be discovered by curious minds and intrepid spirits. As the gentle currents of sleep carry us into the night, we can take comfort in the knowledge that we are part of something greater, a grand evolutionary journey that unites all living things, and perhaps, in the misty landscape of our dreams, we may catch a glimpse of the lush jungles and teeming islands where Wallace once wandered, marvelling at the endless forms most beautiful that nature has wrought. From the depths of time, the story of life unfolds in a mesmerizing dance of change and adaptation. The fossil record whispers tales of long-vanished worlds, where strange and wondrous creatures once roamed. In the shimmering coils of DNA, we trace the molecular echoes of our ancestors, from the first humble microbes to the myriad branches of the tree of life. With each passing generation, the forces of mutation, selection, and drift shape the living world anew. Bit by bit, form and function evolve in a delicate ballet of chance and necessity. From the graceful arc of a bird's wing to the intricate chemistry of a flower's bloom, the fingerprints of evolution are everywhere to be found. And in the grand tapestry of life, each species is but a single thread, woven together with countless others in a complex and ever-changing pattern. The rise and fall of lineages, the ebb and flow of populations, the endless cycle of extinction and renewal, all are part of the epic story of evolution. As we contemplate the majesty of this unfolding drama, we cannot help but feel a sense of wonder and humility. For we too are part of the great evolutionary saga, our own thread inextricably intertwined with those of every living creature on Earth. And so, as the veil of sleep gently descends, let us dream of the countless forms that life has taken, and will yet take, guided by the timeless principles of evolution. May we find solace in our connection to the greater web of existence, and marvel at the creative power of nature that has shaped us, and all the beauty and diversity of the living world. In the quiet depths of the night, as our minds drift through the vast reaches of evolutionary time, we may find ourselves pondering the great questions that have long captivated the human imagination. How did life begin? What forces have shaped its incredible diversity? And what does the future hold for the ever-evolving tapestry of species that share our planet? These are questions that have preoccupied thinkers and scientists for centuries, from the ancient Greek philosophers who first speculated about the origins of life to the cutting-edge researchers of today who are unravelling the secrets of the genome. And while our understanding of evolution has grown by leaps and bounds in recent decades, there is still so much that remains to be discovered. One of the great frontiers of evolutionary science today is the study of how complex life emerged from the primordial soup of the early Earth. For billions of years, our planet was home only to simple, single-celled organisms, but sometime around 550 million years ago, a great flourishing of multicellular life began. This Cambrian explosion, as it is known, saw the sudden appearance of a dazzling array of new animal forms, from the armoured trilobites to the soft-bodied worms and sponges. In a geological blink of an eye, the seas were filled with a riot of new body plans and ways of life, setting the stage for the incredible diversity of creatures that would follow. But what triggered this evolutionary leap? Was it a change in the chemistry of the oceans, perhaps? Or the rise of new predators that spurred the evolution of more complex body structures? Or was it the result of some more subtle interplay of ecological and genetic factors, a perfect storm of conditions that allowed multicellular life to flourish as never before? These are questions that continue to fascinate and challenge scientists today as they seek to piece together the intricate puzzle of life's early history. With each new fossil discovery and each new insight from the lab, we come a little closer to understanding the deep roots of the evolutionary tree. And as we trace the twists and turns of that tree through the eons, we cannot help but marvel at the sheer creativity and resilience of life. From the rise of the dinosaurs to the first tentative steps of our own ancestors, the story of evolution is one of constant change and adaptation, of species and ecologies evolving in response to an ever-shifting landscape of challenges and opportunities. It is a story that is still being written today, as new species continue to emerge and old ones fade away, victims of a rapidly changing world. In our own time, we have seen the rise of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, the spread of invasive species, and the looming spectre of climate change, all of which are reshaping the evolutionary landscape in ways we are only beginning to understand. But even as we grapple with these challenges, we can take solace in the knowledge that life has endured far greater upheavals in the past. From the mass extinctions that have periodically wiped out vast swathes of species to the great migrations and radiations that have carried life to every corner of the globe, the resilience and adaptability of nature have seen it through countless trials. And so, as we drift off to sleep, let us dream of the wondrous saga of evolution, the great unfolding story of life in all its beauty and diversity. May we find inspiration in the countless forms and strategies that nature has devised, and may we cherish the precious inheritance of the living world that has been bequeathed to us by the patient workings of time and chance. For in the end, the story of evolution is our story too, the tale of how we came to be and of the endless forms that life may yet take. It is a story of struggle and triumph, of loss and renewal, of the enduring power of nature to create and sustain the incredible pageant of existence. As the quiet rhythms of sleep carry us into the night, may we find peace in our place within that larger story, secure in the knowledge that we are part of something greater than ourselves, a grand evolutionary journey that stretches back to the very dawn of life and forward into an ever-unfolding future, full of wonders yet to be imagined. The soft veil of slumber descends as our minds drift gently through the vast landscapes of evolutionary time, from the first stirrings of life in the primordial oceans to the rise of humanity and beyond. The story of evolution is a tale of ceaseless change and adaptation, written in the language of genes and etched in the fossil record. It is a story that has captivated the human imagination for centuries, from the early musings of natural philosophers to the rigorous inquiries of modern science. And though our understanding of the evolutionary process has grown immensely in recent times, there is still so much left to discover, so many mysteries yet to be unravelled. One of the great questions that continues to fascinate researchers is the role of cooperation and altruism in the evolution of complex societies. From the intricate colonies of social insects to the rich cultural traditions of human civilizations, the ability of individuals to work together for the greater good has been a key factor in the success of many species. But how did such cooperative behaviours evolve in the first place? After all, the ruthless logic of natural selection would seem to favour selfishness and competition over sacrifice and collaboration. And yet, time and again, we see examples of animals and even microbes cooperating in ways that benefit the group as a whole, even at a cost to the individual. The key, it turns out, lies in the subtle interplay of genetic relatedness, reciprocal altruism, and group selection. When individuals are closely related, as in a colony of ants or bees, helping others can indirectly promote the spread of one's own genes. And when cooperation is reciprocated over time, as in the grooming behaviour of primates or the blood-sharing of vampire bats, even unrelated individuals can benefit from working together. At a larger scale, selection can sometimes act on entire groups, favouring those with a higher proportion of cooperative individuals over those dominated by selfish ones. This multi-level selection may have played a key role in the evolution of human societies, as groups with stronger social bonds and more effective collaboration would have been better able to survive and thrive in a challenging world. But cooperation is not the only evolutionary force that has shaped the course of life on Earth. Competition, too, has been a constant theme, driving the endless arms races between predators and prey, parasites and hosts, rivals for mates and resources. From the swift legs of the gazelle to the sharp teeth of the lion, the elaborate displays of the peacock to the camouflage of the moth, the natural world is full of adaptations honed by the relentless pressure of competition. And then there is the role of chance and contingency, the random twists of fate that can send evolution down unexpected paths. A sudden shift in climate, a chance mutation, a lucky dispersal event. Any of these can open up new opportunities for life to explore, leading to the emergence of novel forms and strategies. The story of the mammals is a prime example of this evolutionary serendipity. For millions of years, these small, unassuming creatures lived in the shadows of the dinosaurs, eking out a living in the nooks and crannies of a world dominated by reptilian giants. But when a massive asteroid struck the Earth 66 million years ago, wiping out the dinosaurs in a geological instant, the mammals seized their chance. In the aftermath of the extinction, they diversified and spread, evolving into a dazzling array of forms from tiny shrews to towering elephants, swift cheetahs to soaring bats, and among them, one lineage gave rise to a species with a remarkable capacity for language, tool use, and abstract thought, a species that would one day seek to unravel the very mysteries of its own evolutionary origins. As we ponder these deep questions, the comforting embrace of sleep draws us ever closer, and in the hidden realms of the dreaming mind, perhaps we can catch a glimpse of the vast evolutionary vistas that have shaped the living world, the endless forms and strategies that nature has explored in her patient experiments with life. For in the end, the story of evolution is a story without end, a grand and ever-unfolding epic that stretches back to the very dawn of time and forward into an uncertain future. It is a story of resilience and innovation, of creativity and change, of the endless power of nature to adapt and evolve in the face of any challenge. And it is a story that includes us all, every living thing that has ever drawn breath on this ancient earth. From the simplest bacterium to the most complex mammal, we are all part of the same great evolutionary tapestry, woven together by the threads of heredity and selection, chance and necessity. So let us embrace that connection, that sense of kinship with all of life, as we drift off into the soothing depths of sleep. Let us dream of the countless wonders that evolution has wrought, and of the endless possibilities that lie ahead, waiting to be discovered by curious minds and intrepid spirits. And let us find comfort in the knowledge that, no matter what challenges the future may bring, life will find a way, as it always has, adapting and evolving, changing and growing in a ceaseless dance of creativity and resilience. For that is the true beauty and magic of evolution, the source of all the diversity and splendour of the living world. As the soft currents of sleep carry us onward through the night, we can rest easy in the knowledge that we are part of something greater, a grand and ancient story that echoes through the ages. And though the path ahead may be uncertain, one thing is clear. The journey of evolution will continue, as it always has, guided by the timeless principles of nature and the enduring power of life itself. As we continue our journey through the fascinating history of evolutionary thought, let's turn our attention to some of the key figures who helped shape our modern understanding of life's origins and development. One such pioneer was the renowned Scottish geologist Charles Lyell. Born in 1797, Lyell grew up with a deep fascination for the natural world. He would spend hours exploring the rugged landscapes near his home, collecting rocks and fossils that hinted at the Earth's ancient past. As a young man, Lyell studied at Oxford University, where he immersed himself in the cutting-edge geological theories of the day. But he soon became dissatisfied with the prevailing idea that the Earth's features had been shaped by sudden, catastrophic events, a view promoted by many of his contemporaries. Instead, Lyell proposed a radical new vision of Earth's history, which he laid out in his groundbreaking work, Principles of Geology. Published in 3 volumes between 1830 and 1833, this landmark text argued that the planet's surface had been slowly sculpted over vast expanses of time by the same gradual processes we observe today: the erosion of rock, the deposition of sediment, the creeping flow of glaciers. Lyell's ideas were nothing short of revolutionary. By suggesting that the Earth was far older than most people believed, and that its features could be explained by everyday processes acting over immense timescales, he paved the way for a new understanding of our planet's past, one that would profoundly influence a young Charles Darwin. In fact, when Darwin set out on his fateful voyage aboard the HMS Beagle in 1831, he carried with him a copy of Lyell's Principles of Geology. As he journeyed around the world, Darwin would repeatedly turn to Lyell's work for insight and inspiration, using its principles to interpret the geological wonders he encountered. But Lyell's influence on Darwin went beyond just geology. By demonstrating that the Earth's surface had changed slowly over time, Lyell had unwittingly laid the groundwork for evolutionary thinking. After all, if the planet itself could transform over eons through the cumulative effects of gradual processes, why couldn't life do the same? This was the great insight that Darwin would seize upon, as he developed his theory of evolution by natural selection. Just as the Earth's features had been sculpted by slow, incremental changes over vast periods, so too had life been shaped by the gradual accumulation of tiny variations, filtered by the relentless sieve of survival and reproduction. In this way, Lyell's ideas about the Earth's history and Darwin's insights into the evolution of life were intimately connected, two sides of the same coin, each shedding light on the other, and while Lyell himself never fully embraced evolutionary theory, his work laid the essential foundations upon which Darwin would build his masterpiece. As we reflect on Lyell's contributions to science, we're reminded of the power of bold, original thinking to reshape our understanding of the world. By daring to challenge conventional wisdom and propose a radically new vision of Earth's past, Lyell helped pave the way for one of the greatest intellectual revolutions in history, the birth of modern evolutionary thought. And so, as we drift deeper into slumber, let us dream of the vast expanses of geological time, the slow sculpting of continents and seas, and the gradual unfolding of life in all its wondrous diversity. For in the story of evolution, we find not only a scientific theory of immense explanatory power, but a profound reminder of our own place in the grand tapestry of nature, a humbling perspective that can bring a deep sense of peace and connection as we slip into the waiting arms of sleep. While Lyell and Darwin were unravelling the mysteries of geology and biology, another scientific revolution was brewing in a different field entirely, one that would forever change our understanding of heredity and provide a crucial missing piece in the evolutionary puzzle. The year was 1866, and an Austrian monk named Gregor Mendel was busily tending to his pea plants in the tranquil gardens of St. Thomas's Abbey in Brno. For years, Mendel had been carefully breeding and crossing different varieties of peas, meticulously tracking the characteristics of the offspring through multiple generations. As he pored over his data, Mendel began to notice striking patterns in the way certain traits were inherited. Some characteristics, like flower colour or seed shape, seemed to be passed down in predictable ratios, with certain variants consistently appearing more frequently than others. Intrigued, Mendel set out to systematically investigate these patterns, conducting a series of groundbreaking experiments that would lay the foundations of modern genetics. With painstaking precision, he crossed pea plants with contrasting traits, such as purple and white flowers or smooth and wrinkled seeds, and carefully documented the results. What Mendel discovered was nothing short of remarkable. He found that traits were not blended together in offspring, as many believed at the time, but instead remained distinct and could be passed down independently from one generation to the next. He also realized that some variants were dominant over others, consistently appearing more frequently in the offspring. From these observations, Mendel derived a set of basic principles that would come to be known as the laws of inheritance. He proposed that traits were controlled by discrete units, which he called factors, what we now know as genes. These factors, he suggested, came in pairs, with offspring inheriting one from each parent. Mendel's work was a triumph of scientific inquiry, based on meticulous observation, careful experimentation, and rigorous analysis. And yet, when he first presented his findings to the local scientific society in 1865, they were met with resounding indifference. It would be decades before the true significance of his discovery was recognised. In the early 1900s, as biologists rediscovered Mendel's work, the implications for evolutionary theory became clear. Darwin had proposed natural selection as the driving force behind evolutionary change, but he had struggled to explain how variations arose and were passed down through generations. Mendel's laws of inheritance provided the missing link, revealing the basic mechanisms of heredity that could give rise to the raw material upon which natural selection could act. With this newfound understanding of genetics, the stage was set for the modern synthesis of evolutionary biology, a unification of Darwin's theory of natural selection with Mendel's principles of inheritance, along with insights from fields like population genetics, ecology, and paleontology. This synthesis would provide a powerful framework for understanding the complexity and diversity of life on Earth. As we contemplate Mendel's legacy, we're reminded of the profound insights that can emerge from the humblest of pursuits, in this case, the careful observation of pea plants in a quiet monastery garden. And we're inspired by the example of a scientist who, through patience, perseverance, and a deep commitment to the truth helped unlock one of the most fundamental mysteries of life itself. So let us drift off to sleep with a sense of wonder at the intricacies of nature, marvelling at the elegant simplicity of Mendel's laws and the way they intertwine with the grand story of evolution. And let us dream of the countless tiny variations accumulating over countless generations that have given rise to the breathtaking diversity of life we see around us, a testament to the ceaseless creativity of the evolutionary process. As the 20th century unfolded, evolutionary biology continued to make great strides, propelled by a series of landmark discoveries and conceptual breakthroughs. One of the most important of these was the development of population genetics, a mathematical approach to studying how genes change and spread through populations over time. At the forefront of this new field were three brilliant scientists, Ronald Fisher, J.B.S. Haldane and Sewell Wright. Together, they would forge a powerful set of tools for understanding the nuts and bolts of evolutionary change, laying the groundwork for much of modern evolutionary theory. Fisher, a British statistician and geneticist, was a pioneer in applying mathematical methods to biology. In his seminal 1930 book, The Genetical Theory of Natural Selection, he demonstrated how Mendelian genetics could be reconciled with Darwin's theory of natural selection, showing that even small, gradual changes in gene frequencies could lead to significant evolutionary change over time. Haldane, another British scientist, made key contributions to our understanding of how natural selection acts on individual genes. He developed mathematical models to describe the spread of new mutations through populations, and he was one of the first to recognize the importance of genetic drift, random changes in gene frequencies that can have significant effects in small populations. Wright, an American geneticist, is best known for his work on the adaptive landscape, a powerful visual metaphor for understanding how natural selection guides populations towards fitness peaks. He also emphasized the role of genetic interaction and the importance of population structure in shaping evolutionary outcomes. Together, the work of Fisher, Haldane and Wright helped to establish population genetics as a rigorous, quantitative science. They showed that the basic principles of inheritance, mutation, and natural selection could be described mathematically, and they developed a range of tools and models for analysing the complex dynamics of evolving populations. Their insights would prove crucial for making sense of the flood of genetic data that was to come. As biologists began to unravel the molecular basis of heredity and develop techniques for sequencing DNA, population genetics provided a framework for interpreting the vast amounts of variation they were uncovering. In the decades that followed, evolutionary biologists would use these tools to study everything from the origins of new species to the evolution of antibiotic resistance in bacteria. They would reveal the intricate evolutionary histories of countless organisms, from fruit flies to finches to human beings, and they would shed light on the complex interplay of genes, environments, and chance events that shape the course of evolution. As we reflect on the contributions of Fisher, Haldane, and Wright, we're reminded of the power of mathematics to illuminate the workings of nature. By translating the abstract principles of evolution into the precise language of equations and models, they helped transform evolutionary biology into a mature, predictive science. And so, as we slip deeper into the embrace of sleep, let us dream of the endless dance of genes through populations, the slow sculpting of species by the relentless hand of natural selection. Let us marvel at the elegant simplicity of the equations that capture these processes and the way they reveal the hidden order underlying the seeming chaos of the living world. For in the story of population genetics, we find not only a powerful tool for understanding the mechanics of evolution, but a reminder of the unity of nature, the way that simple, universal principles can give rise to the incredible richness and complexity of life on Earth. It is a story that humbles and inspires us, even as it lulls us into the gentle embrace of sleep. As the 20th century progressed, evolutionary biology continued to deepen and expand, buoyed by a series of transformative discoveries in genetics and molecular biology. One of the most important of these was the elucidation of the structure of DNA, the molecule that carries the genetic instructions for all living things. The story of DNA's discovery is a tale of scientific brilliance, fierce competition, and a touch of serendipity. At the centre of it all were two young researchers, James Watson and Francis Crick, working at the Cavendish Laboratory in Cambridge, England in the early 1950s. Watson and Crick were fascinated by the question of how genetic information was stored and transmitted in living cells. They knew that DNA was the key, but the molecule's exact structure remained a mystery. Many scientists believed that DNA was a relatively simple molecule, perhaps consisting of a single chain of repeating units. But Watson and Crick had a different hunch. Drawing on a variety of experimental evidence, including crucial X-ray crystallography data from Rosalind Franklin and Maurice Wilkins, they began to piece together a more complex picture of DNA's structure. In a flash of insight, Watson and Crick realized that DNA was not a single chain, but rather two strands, coiled around each other in a double helix. The strands were held together by specific pairings between the molecule's four basic building blocks, adenine with thymine and guanine with cytosine. This complementary base pairing, they reasoned, provided a simple yet elegant mechanism for copying and transmitting genetic information. The implications of Watson and Crick's discovery were immense. With the structure of DNA revealed, scientists could finally begin to unravel the molecular basis of heredity and understand how genetic information was translated into the physical traits of organisms. The double helix quickly became the defining icon of modern biology, a symbol of the incredible complexity and beauty of life at its most fundamental level. In the decades that followed, the study of DNA would revolutionize our understanding of evolution and the history of life on Earth. By comparing the DNA sequences of different organisms, researchers could trace the evolutionary relationships between species, constructing detailed family trees that stretched back billions of years. They could watch natural selection play out at the level of individual genes, observing how tiny variations in DNA could lead to dramatic differences in survival and reproduction. They could even peer back in time, reconstructing the genomes of long-extinct species from fragments of ancient DNA preserved in fossils and permafrost. But perhaps most profoundly, the discovery of DNA's structure and function would forever change our understanding of what it means to be alive. It revealed that all living things, from the simplest bacteria to the most complex animals, were built on the same basic molecular foundation, a testament to the fundamental unity of life on Earth. As we contemplate the significance of Watson and Crick's achievement, we're reminded of the incredible power of scientific curiosity and collaboration. Through a combination of brilliant intuition, meticulous experimentation, and the synthesis of ideas from across disciplines, they were able to solve one of the greatest mysteries in the history of biology. And so, as we drift off into the peaceful depths of sleep, let us dream of the elegant double helix, spinning gently in the heart of every cell. Let us marvel at the incredible intricacy of the genetic code and the way it connects us to every living thing on the planet. And let us feel a sense of unity with all of life, bound together by the common thread of DNA that runs through us all. For in the story of DNA's discovery, we find not only a triumph of scientific inquiry, but a profound insight into the nature of life itself, a reminder that even in our incredible diversity, we are all part of the same grand evolutionary story, woven together by the delicate strands of our genetic heritage. As the 20th century drew to a close, the study of evolution had been transformed by the integration of genetics, molecular biology, and an ever-growing body of fossil evidence. Scientists could now peer deep into the history of life, tracing the intricate paths of descent that connected all living things. One of the most remarkable insights to emerge from this work was the recognition of our own evolutionary history. The fact that we humans are not separate from the rest of nature, but rather an integral part of it, with deep roots stretching back millions of years. The story of human evolution is written in our DNA, in the subtle variations that distinguish us from our closest living relatives, the chimpanzees and bonobos. By comparing our genomes, scientists have been able to trace the divergence of our lineages some 6 to 7 million years ago, from a common ape ancestor that lived in the forests of Africa. From those humble beginnings, the human story is one of incredible adventure and adaptation. Our early ancestors left the safety of the trees and ventured out into the savannas, walking upright on two legs and forging a new way of life on the open plains. They fashioned tools from stone and bone, harnessing the power of fire to cook food and ward off predators. They banded together in small nomadic groups, cooperating to hunt, gather, and raise their young. and they developed complex languages and symbolic cultures, using art and ritual to make sense of their world and their place within it. Over time, these early humans spread out across the globe, adapting to a dizzying array of environments, from the frigid tundras of Eurasia to the sun-baked deserts of Australia. They interbred with other human species like the Neanderthals and Denisovans, picking up valuable genetic variations that helped them survive in new and challenging habitats. And through it all, the slow, steady pulse of evolution shaped them, moulding their bodies and minds to the demands of a changing world. From the colour of our skin to the enzymes in our guts, every aspect of our biology bears the imprint of this long evolutionary history, a testament to the incredible adaptability and resilience of our species. Today, we stand as the sole survivors of this epic journey, the last of the human lineage, but we carry within us the legacy of all those who came before, the intrepid explorers, the skilled hunters, the inventive toolmakers. Their story is our story, written in the very fabric of our being. As we contemplate the long and winding path of human evolution, we're reminded of the incredible power of adaptation and the relentless creativity of the evolutionary process. From the humblest of origins, our species has risen to heights that would have been unimaginable to our earliest ancestors, transforming the world and ourselves in the process. And yet, for all our remarkable achievements, we remain deeply connected to the rest of life on Earth. We share a common origin and a common destiny with every living thing, bound together by the ties of evolutionary kinship. In the story of human evolution, we find not only a chronicle of our own unique history, but a reminder of our place within the greater web of life. So as we slip into the restful embrace of sleep, let us dream of the long journey that brought us here, the countless generations of ancestors who lived, loved, and struggled so that we might one day exist. Let us marvel at the incredible adaptability of our species and the way evolution has shaped us into the complex, creative, and compassionate beings we are today. And let us feel a sense of kinship with all of life, knowing that we are but one branch on the great tree of evolution, forever intertwined with the countless other species with whom we share this planet. For in the story of human evolution, we find not only a scientific narrative of great power and beauty, but a profound reminder of our connection to the. As the soothing embrace of sleep draws near, let us return to the captivating story of life's history, woven together by the threads of evolutionary change. Our journey now carries us to the vibrant intellectual world of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, a time when the seeds planted by Darwin's groundbreaking ideas began to blossom into the modern science of genetics. Picture a tranquil monastery garden in 1850s Austria, where a curious monk named Gregor Mendel tends to his pea plants with meticulous care. Amidst the rustling of leaves and the gentle hum of insects, Mendel diligently crosses different varieties of peas, tracking the inheritance of traits like flower colour and seed shape over generations. Little does he know that his painstaking experiments will lay the foundation for a revolutionary new understanding of how life evolves. Mendel discovers that traits are passed down in discrete units, which he calls factors, later known as genes. He observes that these factors come in pairs, one from each parent, and that some factors are dominant while others are recessive. With keen insight, Mendel formulates the laws of inheritance, revealing the predictable patterns by which traits are transmitted from parents to offspring. Although Mendel's work is initially overlooked, his ideas resurface at the turn of the 20th century, when biologists Hugo de Vries, Carl Correns, and Erich von Tschermak independently rediscover his laws of inheritance. The significance of Mendel's findings becomes clear. They provide a mechanism for the variation and heritability that drive evolutionary change. As the 1900s unfold, a new generation of scientists begins to weave together the strands of Darwin's theory of natural selection and Mendel's laws of inheritance into a comprehensive understanding of evolution. The nascent field of genetics takes flight, propelled by the work of pioneering researchers like William Bateson, who coins the term genetics, and Thomas Hunt Morgan, who uses fruit flies to map genes on chromosomes. In the 1920s and 30s, a brilliant trio of mathematicians, Ronald Fisher, J.B.S. Haldane, and Sewall Wright, apply statistical methods to the study of evolution, forming the foundations of population genetics. They develop elegant mathematical models that describe how the frequencies of genes change over time under the influence of mutation, selection, migration, and random drift. Their work reveals how even small selective advantages can, over many generations, profoundly shape the genetic makeup of populations. Meanwhile, naturalists and field biologists begin to document evolution in action across the living world. In England, Oxford ecologist E.B. Ford studies the peppered moth, observing how the spread of industrial soot darkens tree bark and shifts the moth population from light to dark forms that better avoid predators, a striking example of natural selection in real time. And in the Soviet Union, geneticist Theodosius Dobzhansky breeds fruit flies in population cages, directly observing the rise and fall of genetic variants under different environmental conditions. His experiments offer compelling evidence for the power of selection to shape gene frequencies and drive adaptive change. As the 20th century progresses, the pieces of the evolutionary puzzle continue to snap into place. In the 1940s, Oswald Avery, Colin MacLeod, and Macklin McCarty identified DNA as the molecular carrier of genetic information, paving the way for a new era of molecular biology. And in 1953, James Watson and Francis Crick unveil the elegant double helix structure of DNA, revealing the physical basis for the gene and the mechanism of inheritance. With the molecular underpinnings of life coming into focus, evolutionary biologists begin to decipher the genetic code and unravel the molecular mechanisms of mutation, variation, and selection. They discover that DNA sequences, like the fossilized remains of ancient organisms, bear the imprints of evolutionary history. By comparing gene sequences across species, researchers can reconstruct the branching tree of life and trace the origins of biological innovations. In the late 20th century, advances in DNA sequencing technology usher in the genomic revolution, enabling scientists to read the complete genetic blueprints of organisms from bacteria to humans. Comparative genomics reveals the deep evolutionary kinship among all living things, showing how the same basic genetic toolkit, modified and repurposed over billions of years, gives rise to the incredible diversity of life. As we reflect on the remarkable progress of evolutionary science, from Darwin's voyages to the sequencing of genomes, it becomes clear that the story of evolution is not just a tale of the past, but an ongoing saga that continues to unfold. Every day, in laboratories and natural habitats around the world, biologists are uncovering new details about the intricate dance of genes, traits, and environments that shapes the ever-changing tapestry of life. Yet even as the evidence for evolution grows ever more compelling, public understanding and acceptance of this fundamental scientific principle remains a challenge. In courtrooms and classrooms, offices and living rooms, the battle to promote evolutionary thinking rages on. But amidst the swirling debates, one truth stands firm: that the story of life, as revealed by science, is a tale of awe-inspiring beauty, complexity, and unity, transcending the boundaries of nation, creed, and culture. As we ponder the profound implications of evolution for our place in the cosmos, let us find solace in the knowledge that we are part of something much grander than ourselves. Each of us is a tiny branch on the majestic tree of life, our existence interwoven with the countless forms that have come before us and those yet to emerge. In the unfolding story of evolution, we are at once the authors and the subjects, shaping the future even as we are shaped by the past. So let us embrace the evolutionary perspective, not as a threat to our cherished beliefs, but as an invitation to marvel at the rich tapestry of life and our own remarkable place within it. As we drift off into the peaceful realm of dreams, let us carry with us a sense of kinship with all living things and a renewed appreciation for the incredible journey that has brought us to this moment in time. And though the path ahead may be uncertain, one thing is clear: that the story of life, as illuminated by the light of evolution, is a never-ending source of wonder, discovery, and inspiration. It is a story that has captivated the human imagination for centuries and will continue to do so for generations to come, as we seek to unravel the mysteries of our origins and our place in the grand saga of existence. As the gentle veil of sleep descends, let us find comfort in the knowledge that we are part of something ancient, something vast, and something beautiful beyond measure. and let us dream of a world where the insights of science and the wisdom of the heart can work together to build a future in which all life is cherished, all knowledge is valued, and all people are empowered to participate in the ongoing story of discovery and wonder that is the hallmark of our species. For in the end, the story of evolution is not just a tale of genes and fossils, but a reflection of the unquenchable human spirit, our boundless curiosity, our relentless quest for understanding, and our capacity for awe in the face of the unknown. It is a story that reminds us of our place in the grand tapestry of existence and of the incredible potential that lies within each of us to shape the future of life on this precious planet we call home. So let us embrace the lessons of evolution, not as a threat to our identity, but as a celebration of our shared heritage and a call to action for the preservation and flourishing of all life. Let us find inspiration in the words of the great evolutionist Theodosius Dobzhansky, who reminded us that nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. And let us carry that light with us into the realm of dreams and into the dawning of each new day as we work to build a world that is more just, more compassionate, and more attuned to the wondrous workings of nature. As the final notes of our journey echo in the chambers of the mind, let us surrender to the soothing embrace of sleep, secure in the knowledge that we are part of a grand and ancient story, and that our dreams and aspirations are the very stuff of which the future will be woven. And as we drift off into the peaceful repose of the night, let us carry with us a sense of wonder at the magnificent tapestry of life, and a renewed commitment to cherish and protect the incredible diversity of our living planet. For in the end, the story of evolution is our story, the story of how we came to be, and of the countless forms of life with which we share this fragile and beautiful world. It is a story of resilience and adaptation, of creativity and innovation, and of the boundless potential of nature to surprise and delight us. And it is a story that will continue to unfold in ways both wondrous and unexpected as long as life itself endures. So let us embrace the evolutionary perspective, not as a threat to our sense of meaning and purpose, but as an invitation to find our place in the grand narrative of life and to play our part in shaping the chapters yet to come. Let us find solace in the knowledge that we are part of something much larger than ourselves, and that our lives and our choices matter in ways we may never fully comprehend. And as we surrender to the gentle embrace of sleep, let us dream of a world where the wisdom of evolution guides our actions and our aspirations, and where the incredible diversity and beauty of life is celebrated as the most precious gift of all. For in the end, the story of evolution is a reminder that we are all connected, that we are all part of the same grand adventure, and that our fates are inextricably intertwined with those of all the living beings with whom we share this pale blue dot we call home. So let us face the future with courage and with hope, armed with the knowledge that we are the products of an incredible journey, and that our dreams and our actions have the power to shape the course of life itself. And let us find comfort in the knowledge that, even as we drift off into the peaceful repose of sleep, the great story of evolution continues to unfold in all its beauty and wonder, all around us and within us, guiding us towards a future that is bright with possibility and alive with the incredible potential of life in all its forms. As we ponder the incredible story of evolution, it's worth taking a moment to appreciate the remarkable scientists who uncovered its intricacies and forever changed our understanding of life on Earth. One such figure was Lynn Margulis, a visionary biologist who made groundbreaking discoveries about the role of symbiosis in evolution. Born in 1938 in Chicago, Margulis was fascinated by the natural world from a young age. She earned her bachelor's degree in liberal arts at the University of Chicago before pursuing graduate studies in genetics and zoology at the University of Wisconsin. It was here that Margulis began to develop her revolutionary ideas about the importance of symbiosis, the close, long-term interactions between different species in shaping the evolution of life. In 1966, Margulis published a landmark paper proposing that mitochondria and chloroplasts, the power plants of animal and plant cells, evolved from ancient bacteria that were engulfed by larger cells. This process, known as endosymbiosis, involved the smaller bacteria taking up residence inside the larger cells, eventually becoming permanently integrated and essential to their host's survival. Margulis's theory was met with skepticism at first, but over time, accumulating evidence proved her right. Today, endosymbiosis is recognized as a crucial mechanism in the evolution of eukaryotic cells, the building blocks of all complex life. Margulis's insights didn't stop there. She proposed that symbiosis was not just a curious footnote in evolutionary history, but a central driver of the diversification of life. From the intimate partnership between reef-building corals and photosynthetic algae to the vital role of gut bacteria in human health, Margulis showed that cooperation between species was every bit as important as competition in shaping the living world. Throughout her career, Margulis fearlessly challenged conventional wisdom and urged scientists to think holistically about the web of relationships that connects all life. She was a prolific writer, authoring books that brought evolutionary ideas to a wide audience, and an inspiring teacher who mentored a new generation of biologists. And while not all of her more speculative ideas gained acceptance, like the notion that symbiosis could explain the origin of cilia and flagella, Margulis's larger vision of life as a grand interconnected system continues to influence evolutionary thought today. Margulis's story reminds us that science is an ongoing conversation, a search for truth propelled by bold thinkers who are unafraid to question established ideas. Her work on endosymbiosis and the pervasive importance of symbiosis in evolution expanded the narrative of life's history, revealing not just a tree of diverging branches, but an intricate web of cooperation woven through every limb. As we continue our journey through the annals of evolutionary biology, we turn now to another revolutionary thinker, Moto Kimura, the quiet Japanese scientist who transformed our understanding of how evolution unfolds at the most fundamental level of DNA. Born in 1924 in Okazaki, Japan, Kimura was drawn to the elegant logic of population genetics, the mathematical study of how genes change over time. After earning his PhD from the University of Wisconsin in 1956, Kimura returned to Japan to take up a position at the National Institute of Genetics. It was here, in the 1960s, that Kimura began to develop his most famous idea, the neutral theory of molecular evolution. At the time, most biologists assumed that natural selection was the primary driver of evolutionary change, even at the level of individual DNA mutations. But as researchers began to compare protein sequences across species, they noticed something puzzling. Many genetic differences between species seemed to have little or no effect on the organism's appearance or behavior. These so-called neutral mutations didn't seem to be under the influence of natural selection at all. Kimura proposed a simple yet profound explanation. Most mutations at the molecular level are neither beneficial nor harmful, but rather neutral. They don't affect an organism's fitness either way. And because these neutral mutations are invisible to the filtering effects of natural selection, they can accumulate over time through a process Kimura called genetic drift. Just as a flipped coin will randomly produce streaks of heads or tails, genetic drift causes neutral mutations to randomly become more or less common in a population over generations. Kimura's neutral theory was a revelation. It meant that the pace of molecular evolution was largely independent of natural selection, and could actually be used as a kind of molecular clock to estimate the timing of evolutionary events. By comparing the number of neutral differences between the DNA of different species, scientists could infer how long ago those species diverged from a common ancestor. The neutral theory also had profound implications for our understanding of the human genome. When the Human Genome Project was completed in 2003, researchers were surprised to discover that only a tiny fraction of our DNA, maybe 1 to 2%, actually codes for proteins. The vast majority of the human genome consists of non-coding DNA, much of which appears to be selectively neutral. Kimura's theory helped explain why our genomes are littered with so much seemingly functionless sequence. It's the result of eons of neutral mutations, accumulating through drift. Today, the neutral theory is a cornerstone of molecular evolution, shedding light on everything from the origins of genetic diseases to the effects of population size on evolutionary change. And while the relative importance of selection and drift in shaping genomes remains an active area of research, Kimura's insight that evolution is often guided by chance as well as necessity is now a central tenet of evolutionary thought. Kimura's story underscores the power of mathematical reasoning to illuminate the patterns of nature. By wedding the elegant models of population genetics to the growing tide of molecular data, Kimura opened up a whole new window onto the evolutionary process. one that revealed the random dance of genes across vast expanses of time. As we reflect on the insights of Lynn Margulis and Motu Kimura, we're reminded that the story of evolution is not just a chronicle of the past, but an ongoing quest to understand the present. With each new discovery, whether in the complex interplay of symbiotic relationships or the random drift of DNA sequences, we deepen our appreciation for the subtle and often surprising ways that life evolves. And so, as we drift off into the peaceful embrace of sleep, let us carry with us a sense of wonder at the ceaseless creativity of nature and the tireless curiosity of the scientists who work to unravel its mysteries. For in the grand tapestry of life, each new insight is but a single thread, woven into an ever-growing understanding of the magnificent process that has shaped us all. The gentle voice of the narrator fades into the calm of the night, leaving us to ponder the incredible journey of evolution, a journey that began billions of years ago and continues within each of us today. As we slumber, our cells carry out the ancient dance of life, guided by the same forces that have shaped the living world since its very beginnings. And while the path of evolution is often unpredictable, one thing is certain. As long as life endures, the grand experiment of nature will continue, forever seeking new forms, new solutions, and new wonders to behold. In the early 20th century, a young Serbian scientist named Milutin Milankovic embarked on a quest to understand the rhythms of Earth's climate. Born in 1879 in the village of Dalj, Milankovic was fascinated by the natural world from an early age. After earning degrees in mathematics and engineering, he turned his keen mind to the problem of how Earth's orbital cycles might influence long-term climate patterns. Milankovic began by studying the intricate dance of Earth's motion around the Sun. He realized that over tens of thousands of years, subtle variations in Earth's orbit, its eccentricity, tilt and wobble, could alter the amount and distribution of solar energy reaching the planet's surface. Using complex mathematical calculations, Milankovic painstakingly mapped out these orbital cycles and their potential effects on climate. In 1920, Milankovic published his groundbreaking work, Mathematical Theory of Heat Phenomena Produced by Solar Radiation. In it, he proposed that cyclical changes in Earth's orbit were the driving force behind the planet's ice ages, the alternating periods of cold and warmth that had punctuated Earth's recent history. According to Milankovic, when Earth's orbit was more elliptical, summers in the northern hemisphere received less solar energy, allowing winter snow and ice to persist and build up into massive ice sheets. Conversely, when the orbit was more circular, warmer summers melted the ice, ushering in an interglacial period. Milankovic's theory, known today as Milankovic cycles, was initially met with skepticism. Many scientists found it hard to believe that such subtle orbital variations could trigger the dramatic climate shifts of the ice ages, but as evidence mounted from deep-sea sediment cores to ice sheet drill samples, it became clear that Milankovic was onto something. Today, Milankovic cycles are recognized as a key driver of long-term climate change, shaping the ebb and flow of ice ages over the past few million years. Milankovic's work also had important implications for the evolution of life. The coming and going of ice ages had profound effects on global ecosystems, altering habitats, shifting species ranges, and even influencing human migration patterns. The evolutionary pressures exerted by these climate upheavals left their mark in the DNA of countless organisms, from hardy tundra plants to woolly mammoths. But Milankovic's insights didn't end with the ice ages. His calculations also shed light on other climate phenomena, like the African humid period, a time of increased rainfall and lush vegetation in what is now the Sahara Desert. Milankovic showed that this wet phase, which occurred between 14,800 and 5,500 years ago, was likely triggered by a northward shift in the African monsoon, itself a result of orbital changes. Milankovic's legacy extends beyond his groundbreaking theories. His interdisciplinary approach, weaving together astronomy, mathematics, and earth science, set a new standard for the study of climate change, and his dogged pursuit of a unifying theory, in the face of initially chilly reception from his peers, exemplified the power of perseverance in science. Today, as we grapple with the realities of human-driven climate change, Milankovic's insights remind us that our planet's climate is a complex and dynamic system, shaped by the interplay of myriad factors over immense spans of time. And while the current warming trend is unfolding on a much shorter timescale than the Ice Age cycles of the past, understanding the natural rhythms of Earth's climate can help us better predict and potentially mitigate the changes to come. As we ponder the legacy of Milutin Milankovic, we're reminded once again of the power of curiosity and the patient pursuit of knowledge. Through his tireless efforts to unravel the mysteries of Earth's climate, Milankovic not only shed light on the forces that shape our planet's habitability, but also illuminated the deep connections between the evolution of life and the rhythms of the cosmos. And so, as we slip deeper into the tranquil depths of slumber, let us dream of the vast cycles of time that have moulded the world we know. Cycles that spin out over eons, from the stately waltz of the planets to the delicate balance of Earth's climate and the endless dance of evolution itself. For in the grand tapestry of nature, each thread is woven into the next, forming a picture of breathtaking complexity and beauty, forever unfolding, forever new. In the 1970s, a young American biologist named Lynn Margulis began to challenge one of the most fundamental assumptions about the evolution of life on Earth. At a time when most scientists believed that the key to evolutionary success lay in competition and the survival of the fittest, Margulis proposed a radically different view, one that emphasized the importance of cooperation and symbiosis between species. Born in Chicago in 1938, Margulis was a precocious child with an insatiable curiosity about the natural world. After earning a bachelor's degree in liberal arts from the University of Chicago, she went on to pursue graduate studies in genetics and zoology at the University of Wisconsin. It was here that Margulis began to develop her groundbreaking ideas about the role of symbiosis in evolution. In 1966, Margulis published a landmark paper in the Journal of Theoretical Biology, entitled On the Origin of Mitosing Cells. In it, she proposed a startling hypothesis, that the mitochondria found in the cells of all eukaryotes, from amoeba to humans, were once free-living bacteria that had been engulfed by larger cells in an ancient symbiotic merger. This process, which Margulis termed endosymbiosis, represented a whole new mechanism for evolutionary change, one based on cooperation rather than competition. At first, Margulis's ideas were met with skepticism and even derision from the scientific establishment. Many of her colleagues found it difficult to accept that something as complex as a mitochondrion could have evolved from a simple bacterial ancestor. But Margulis was undeterred. She continued to gather evidence for her theory, drawing on the latest advances in electron microscopy and molecular biology. Over time, Margulis's persistence paid off. Further research revealed striking similarities between the DNA of mitochondria and that of certain free-living bacteria, lending support to the idea of an endosymbiotic origin. And as scientists began to appreciate the pervasiveness of symbiotic relationships in nature, from the nitrogen-fixing bacteria in the roots of legumes to the algae that live within the cells of corals, Margulis's once heretical ideas started to gain traction. But Margulis's contributions to evolutionary theory didn't stop with the endosymbiotic origin of mitochondria. She went on to propose that chloroplasts, the photosynthetic organelles found in plant cells, had also arisen through endosymbiosis, a hypothesis that was later confirmed by genetic evidence. And in her 1981 book Symbiosis in Cell Evolution, Margulis argued that symbiosis had been a major driving force throughout the history of life, shaping everything from the emergence of eukaryotic cells to the evolution of complex ecosystems. Margulis's ideas had profound implications for our understanding of the natural world. By emphasizing the importance of cooperation and interdependence in evolution, she challenged the prevailing view of life as a constant struggle for survival. And by highlighting the role of symbiosis in the evolution of complex life forms, she opened up new avenues for research into the origins and diversification of life on Earth. Today, Margulis's legacy lives on in the vibrant field of symbiosis research, which continues to uncover new and surprising examples of cross-species cooperation in nature. From the microbial communities that support the health of our own bodies to the intricate webs of mutualisms that sustain entire ecosystems, the world that Margulis helped to reveal is one of endless fascination and complexity. As we reflect on the life and work of Lynn Margulis, we're reminded of the power of a single idea to transform our understanding of the world around us. Through her tireless advocacy for the importance of symbiosis and evolution, Margulis not only reshaped the way we think about the history of life on Earth, but also challenged us to reconsider our place within the intricate web of relationships that sustains all living things. And so, as we drift off into the peaceful embrace of sleep, let us carry with us a sense of wonder at the incredible diversity and interconnectedness of life, a tapestry woven over billions of years through countless acts of cooperation, competition, and innovation. For in the grand story of evolution, each species is but a single thread, forever intertwined with the others in a pattern of breathtaking complexity and beauty. In the early 20th century, a young Japanese scientist named Moto Kimura embarked on a quest to understand the intricate workings of evolution at the most fundamental level of life, the level of genes and molecules. Born in 1924 in Okazaki, Japan, Kimura was a brilliant mathematician with a deep fascination for the emerging field of population genetics. After completing his undergraduate studies in Japan, Kimura travelled to the United States to pursue graduate work at the University of Wisconsin. It was here, under the mentorship of renowned geneticist James F. Crow, that Kimura began to grapple with one of the most puzzling questions in evolutionary biology. How could the incredible diversity of life on Earth have arisen through the seemingly random process of genetic mutation? At the time, most biologists believed that the key to evolutionary change lay in natural selection, the idea that beneficial mutations would spread through populations over time, while harmful ones would be weeded out. But as Kimura delved deeper into the mathematical models of population genetics, he began to suspect that something else was at play. In a series of groundbreaking papers published in the 1960s and 70s, Kimura proposed a radical new idea: that the vast majority of genetic mutations were neither beneficial nor harmful, but rather neutral, having no effect on an organism's fitness. According to Kimura's neutral theory of molecular evolution, these neutral mutations could spread through populations by chance alone, without any help from natural selection. At first, Kimura's ideas were met with skepticism from many of his colleagues, who found it hard to believe that something as complex as the genetic code could evolve without the guiding hand of selection. But as researchers began to sequence the DNA of different species and compare their genomes, they made a startling discovery. Much of the genetic variation between species appeared to be neutral, just as Kimura had predicted. Over time, Kimura's neutral theory gained widespread acceptance among biologists, and today it is considered one of the foundational ideas of modern evolutionary thought. By showing that evolution could occur through random genetic drift as well as natural selection, Kimura helped to reshape our understanding of how life on Earth has changed and diversified over billions of years. But Kimura's contributions to science didn't stop with the neutral theory. He also made important advances in. As we continue our journey through the wondrous history of evolutionary thought, let's turn our gaze to the life and work of a remarkable woman who made groundbreaking contributions to our understanding of the origins and diversification of life, Lynn Margulis. Born in 1938 in Chicago, Lynn Margulis was a precocious child with an insatiable curiosity about the natural world. From a young age, she immersed herself in the study of biology, poring over textbooks and spending countless hours exploring the rich ecosystems of her local parks and nature reserves. Margulis attended the University of Chicago, where she earned her bachelor's degree in liberal arts at the tender age of 18. It was here that she first encountered the works of Charles Darwin and other evolutionary thinkers, sparking a lifelong passion for unravelling the mysteries of life's history. In 1957, Margulis began her graduate studies at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Under the guidance of noted biologist Hans Riss, she delved into the intricate world of cellular biology, focusing her research on the structure and function of eukaryotic cells, those complex cells with membrane-bound nuclei that make up all plants, animals, fungi, and protists. It was during this time that Margulis began to formulate a revolutionary hypothesis that would challenge conventional wisdom and reshape our understanding of the evolution of complex life. This idea, known as endosymbiotic theory, proposed that the organelles found within eukaryotic cells, such as mitochondria and chloroplasts, were once free-living bacterial cells that had been engulfed by larger cells in a process of symbiosis. According to Margulis, these engulfed bacteria were not simply digested as food, but instead survived within their host cells, establishing a mutually beneficial relationship. Over millions of years, the endosymbiotic bacteria became fully integrated into the host cell, losing their ability to live independently, and evolving into the specialized organelles we observe today. This idea was met with skepticism and even ridicule from much of the scientific establishment when Margulis first proposed it in the late 1960s. At the time, the prevailing view held that the complex features of eukaryotic cells had evolved gradually through a process of step-by-step natural selection, rather than through the merger of once separate organisms. But Margulis was undeterred by the criticism. With a tenacity and conviction that would become her hallmark, she set out to gather evidence to support her hypothesis. Over the next several decades, Margulis tirelessly researched the structure, function, and genetic makeup of eukaryotic organelles, building a compelling case for their endosymbiotic origins. She noted striking similarities between the DNA, ribosomes, and membranes of mitochondria, and chloroplasts, and those of certain free-living bacteria. She pointed out that these organelles replicated independently of the cell nucleus, much like bacteria do. And she argued that the establishment of endosymbiotic relationships was not a rare or isolated event, but a key driver of evolutionary innovation throughout the history of life. As evidence for endosymbiotic theory mounted, Margulis's ideas gradually gained traction within the scientific community. By the 1980s, her once controversial hypothesis had become widely accepted as a cornerstone of our understanding of eukaryotic evolution. But Margulis's contributions to evolutionary biology extend far beyond endosymbiotic theory. Throughout her career, she was a passionate advocate for a holistic, systems-level approach to understanding life and its evolution. Margulis argued that evolution was not solely a matter of competition and survival of the fittest, but also a story of cooperation, symbiosis, and the integration of once separate lineages. She proposed that many of the major transitions in the history of life, from the origin of eukaryotic cells to the emergence of multicellular organisms, were made possible by the establishment of new symbiotic relationships. This emphasis on the role of symbiosis and cooperation in evolution was a radical departure from the more individualistic, competition-focused narratives that had long dominated evolutionary thinking. Margulis's work helped to shift the focus of evolutionary biology towards the complex webs of interaction and interdependence that characterize living systems at all scales. In addition to her scientific research, Margulis was a dedicated educator and communicator of science. She taught at various universities throughout her career, inspiring generations of students with her infectious enthusiasm for biology and her bold, unconventional ideas. Margulis was also a prolific writer, authoring numerous books and articles that brought the wonders of evolution and the microbiological world to a wide audience. Her 1986 book Microcosmos, co-authored with her son Dorian Sagan, was a bestseller that introduced readers to the astonishing diversity and importance of microbial life. Throughout her life, Margulis remained a fierce intellect and a force to be reckoned with in the world of evolutionary biology. Her work challenged long-held assumptions, sparked new lines of inquiry, and helped to paint a richer, more complex picture of life's history. When Lynn Margulis passed away in 2011 at the age of 73, she left behind an indelible legacy as one of the most innovative and influential thinkers in the history of biology. Her endosymbiotic theory had become a cornerstone of our understanding of eukaryotic evolution, and her emphasis on the role of symbiosis and cooperation in the history of life had helped to transform the way we think about the evolutionary process. Today, Margulis's ideas continue to shape the field of evolutionary biology, inspiring new generations of researchers to explore the complex webs of interaction and interdependence that have given rise to the astonishing diversity of life on Earth. As we reflect on the life and work of Lynn Margulis, we're reminded that the story of evolution is not just a tale of competition and struggle, but also one of cooperation, symbiosis, and the coming together of once separate lineages to create something new and wondrous. In the grand tapestry of life's history, every thread is interwoven with countless others, each one essential to the overall pattern, and it is through the tireless work of visionaries like Lynn Margulis that we are able to glimpse the breathtaking intricacy and beauty of that tapestry, woven over billions of years of evolutionary time. So as we drift off into peaceful slumber, let us carry with us a sense of wonder at the magnificent complexity of the living world, and a deep appreciation for the bold and brilliant minds like Margulis, who have helped us to unravel its secrets. For in the story of evolution, each discovery is but another chapter in an endlessly unfolding tale, a tale that connects us all, from the tiniest microbe to the mightiest mammal, in one vast, breathtaking web of life. As the soothing voice of the narrator fades into the night, we are left with a profound sense of our place in the grand evolutionary drama, and a renewed appreciation for the countless threads of symbiosis, cooperation, and interdependence that have woven the living world into the magnificent tapestry we see today. The soft, inviting embrace of sleep beckons, and we drift off into peaceful dreams, our minds filled with visions of the ceaseless unfolding of life in all its breathtaking diversity and splendour. As we drift deeper into slumber, let's allow our minds to wander back in time once more, to the year 1912. In a small town in the English countryside, a young boy named Ronald Aylmer Fisher is discovering his passion for mathematics and biology. Little does he know that his work will one day revolutionize our understanding of evolution. Fisher grows up in a time of great scientific progress, as researchers begin to unravel the mysteries of heredity and variation. He excels in his studies, earning a scholarship to Cambridge University, where he delves into the cutting-edge field of statistics. In 1918, Fisher publishes a groundbreaking paper titled The Correlation Between Relatives on the Supposition of Mendelian Inheritance. In it, he demonstrates how Gregor Mendel's laws of inheritance can be combined with statistical methods to predict the distribution of traits in populations over generations. This work lays the foundation for population genetics, a key component of the modern synthesis of evolutionary biology. Throughout the 1920s and 30s, Fisher continues to make seminal contributions to genetics and evolution. He introduces the concept of fitness, defining it as the average reproductive success of individuals with a particular genetic variant. He also develops the fundamental theorem of natural selection, which states that the rate of increase in fitness of any organism at any time is equal to its genetic variance in fitness at that time. This theorem provides a mathematical basis for the process of adaptation by natural selection. Fisher's work is complemented by that of other pioneering population geneticists, such as J.B.S. Haldane and Sewell Wright. Haldane, a brilliant British polymath, applies mathematical models to real-world examples of natural selection, such as the spread of industrial melanism in peppered moths. Wright, an American biologist, introduces the concept of genetic drift, showing how chance fluctuations in gene frequencies can shape the evolution of small populations. Together, Fisher, Haldane and Wright form the intellectual core of the modern synthesis, a grand unification of Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection with Mendelian genetics, population biology, and other fields. Their work transforms evolution from a largely descriptive science into a rigorous quantitative framework for understanding how life changes over time. As the modern synthesis takes hold, evolutionary biology enters a golden age of discovery. In the 1940s, Theodosius Dobzhansky, a Russian-American geneticist, publishes Genetics and the Origin of Species, a landmark book that applies population genetics to the study of speciation and natural selection in the wild. Dobzhansky's work on fruit flies demonstrates how genetic mutations and recombination generate the raw material for evolution, while natural selection and genetic drift shape the characteristics of populations over generations. Meanwhile, Ernst Mayr, a German-American biologist, develops the biological species concept, which defines species as groups of actually or potentially interbreeding natural populations that are reproductively isolated from other such groups. Mayer's work helps to clarify the nature of species and the mechanisms of speciation, shedding light on the origin of the diversity of life. In the 1950s and 60s, the discovery of the structure and function of DNA opens up new frontiers in evolutionary research. Scientists begin to study evolution at the molecular level, comparing DNA sequences across species to trace evolutionary relationships and uncover the genetic basis of adaptations. The field of molecular evolution is born, providing powerful new tools for testing and refining evolutionary hypotheses. One of the most important figures in molecular evolution is Moto Kimura, a Japanese geneticist who proposes the neutral theory of molecular evolution in 1968. Kimura argues that most genetic changes at the molecular level are caused by random drift of selectively neutral mutations, rather than by Darwinian selection. While controversial at first, the neutral theory is later supported by a wealth of genetic data, and it becomes a cornerstone of modern evolutionary thinking. As the 20th century draws to a close, evolutionary biology continues to make rapid advancements. Scientists sequence the genomes of a growing number of species, from bacteria to humans, revealing the intricate evolutionary histories written in our DNA. New technologies such as DNA fingerprinting and ancient DNA analysis allow researchers to study evolution in unprecedented detail, from the spread of antibiotic resistance in microbes to the migrations of prehistoric human populations. Yet even as our understanding of evolution grows more sophisticated, the fundamental insights of Darwin and his successors remain as relevant as ever. The basic principles of variation, inheritance, and selection still guide evolutionary thinking, while new discoveries continue to fill in the details and extend the frontiers of the field. As we contemplate the remarkable progress of evolutionary science over the past century, it's worth reflecting on the enduring lessons of this grand story of life. Evolution teaches us to see the world as a dynamic, ever-changing place, shaped by the complex interplay of chance, necessity, and the relentless creativity of nature. It reminds us of our deep kinship with all living things, from the tiniest microbe to the mightiest tree, and our shared ancestry stretching back billions of years. But perhaps most importantly, the story of evolution humbles us, even as it inspires a sense of wonder and possibility. For in the grand scheme of life, we are but a recent twig on an ancient tree, blessed with the capacity to ponder our origins and marvel at the magnificent tapestry of nature. As we drift off to sleep, let us dream of the countless generations that came before us, and the countless more that will follow, all part of the ceaseless dance of evolution that has shaped our world and ourselves. And so, as the soothing voice of the narrator fades into the night, we are left with a profound sense of connection to the great unfolding story of life, a story that began long before us and will continue long after we are gone, written in the universal language of genes and the timeless rhythms of nature. Sweet dreams, dear listener, and may the wonders of evolution greet you in your slumber. The scene slowly fades to black as the viewer slips into a peaceful sleep, their dreams populated by the myriad forms and forces of evolution, from the first stirrings of life in primordial oceans to the rise of humanity and beyond. The story of life goes on, a ceaseless dance of change and resilience, forever unfolding in the vast theatre of space and time. As we gently return from the outer reaches of space and time, we find ourselves in the mid-19th century, amidst the genteel drawing rooms and hallowed halls of Victorian England. It is here that we meet a figure whose impact on evolutionary thought was nearly as profound as Darwin's, though his contributions are often overlooked. This man is Alfred Russel Wallace, a self-taught naturalist and explorer whose keen observations and insights would help solidify the theory of evolution by natural selection. Born in 1823 to a middle-class family in Wales, Wallace's early life was marked by financial hardship and a thirst for knowledge. Unable to afford a formal education, he voraciously read books on natural history and taught himself surveying and map-making. These skills would serve him well as he embarked on a series of scientific expeditions that would take him from the Amazon rainforest to the Malay archipelago. It was during his travels in the East Indies that Wallace began to formulate his ideas on evolution. Studying the remarkable diversity of life on these tropical islands, he noticed patterns of distribution that seemed to defy the prevailing notion that species were created individually and remained unchanged. Instead, he saw evidence that species were mutable, adapting to local conditions over time. In 1858, while bedridden with fever on the remote island of Ternate, Wallace had a flash of insight. In a moment of clarity, he grasped the key mechanism driving evolutionary change, the survival and reproduction of the fittest individuals. Excitedly, he drafted an essay outlining his theory and sent it off to none other than Charles Darwin, hoping for feedback from the esteemed naturalist. Little did Wallace know that Darwin had been quietly developing a nearly identical theory for over 2 decades. Shocked to see his ideas so elegantly articulated by another, Darwin sought the advice of his friends, the geologists Charles Lyell and Joseph Hooker. They arranged for Wallace's essay to be presented alongside excerpts from Darwin's writings at a meeting of the Linnean Society in London, ensuring that both men would receive credit for their independent discoveries. The joint presentation marked a turning point in the history of evolutionary thought. While Darwin's comprehensive treatise on the origin of species would follow a year later, It was Wallace's paper that first introduced the concept of evolution by natural selection to the scientific community. The two naturalists had arrived at the same groundbreaking conclusion from opposite sides of the globe, a testament to the power of observation and deduction. In the years that followed, Wallace continued to make significant contributions to evolutionary biology and biogeography. His studies of the geographical distribution of animals led him to propose the Wallace Line, a boundary dividing the distinct fauna of Asia and Australasia. He also wrote extensively on the evolutionary origins of human cognition and morality, grappling with the implications of Darwinism for understanding the human condition. Yet despite his achievements, Wallace remained a humble and somewhat enigmatic figure. He was a spiritualist who believed in the existence of unseen forces and the possibility of communication with the dead. He was also a vocal critic of the excesses of industrial capitalism and an advocate for social reform, arguing that the principles of evolution could be applied to creating a more just and equitable society. In many ways, Wallace embodied the spirit of the self-made Victorian naturalist, a man of insatiable curiosity and boundless energy who defied social conventions to pursue his passions. His story reminds us that the history of science is not just one of lone geniuses, but of a community of thinkers, each contributing pieces to the grand puzzle of understanding the natural world. As we ponder Wallace's legacy, we're reminded that the theory of evolution was not the product of a single mind, but the culmination of centuries of observation, experimentation, and intellectual ferment. It is a testament to the power of curiosity, the rewards of perseverance, and the unending wonder of the living world that surrounds us. And so, as we drift deeper into the calm embrace of sleep, let us carry with us the spirit of Alfred Russel Wallace, a man who ventured fearlessly into the unknown, who saw the world with fresh eyes and an open mind, and who grasped the profound truth of life's ever-changing tapestry. May his story inspire us to embark on our own journeys of discovery, both in the world around us and in the uncharted territories of our dreams. The scene fades gently, the lush forests of the Malay archipelago giving way to the tranquil darkness behind closed eyelids. The soft rustle of leaves and the distant calls of exotic birds linger at the edges of perception, a soothing soundscape carrying us deeper into the realm of sleep. Here, in the quiet depths of the unconscious, the great tree of life continues to unfold, its countless branches intertwining in an endless dance of adaptation and change. As we contemplate the grand story of life on Earth, we find ourselves returning to the humble beginnings of evolutionary thought. Long before Darwin, long before modern genetics and molecular biology, there were thinkers who dared to imagine a world in flux, a living tapestry woven by the threads of time and change. One such visionary was Pierre-Louis Maupertuis, a French mathematician, philosopher, and man of letters who lived during the Enlightenment of the 1700s. Maupertuis was a true polymath, equally at home in the realms of science, philosophy, and literature, but it was his ideas about the natural world that would prove most enduring. In 1751, Maupertuis published a treatise called The System of Nature, in which he proposed a theory of heredity and evolutionary change that was remarkably prescient for its time. Maupertuis suggested that tiny particles he called seeds were responsible for the transmission of traits from parents to offspring. He believed that these seeds could be altered by the environment, leading to changes in the characteristics of organisms over generations. Maupertuis also introduced the concept of survival of the fittest, arguing that creatures with advantageous traits would outlive and outbreed their less well-adapted counterparts. He even speculated that all living things may have arisen from a single primordial form through a process of gradual modification. While Maupertuis' ideas were speculative and lacked the rigorous evidence that Darwin would later provide, they represented a bold new way of thinking about the living world. In a time when most naturalists believed in the fixity of species, Maupertuis dared to imagine a dynamic, ever-changing tapestry of life. Another early evolutionary thinker was Denis Diderot, a prominent figure of the French Enlightenment known for his wit, his encyclopedic knowledge, and his radical philosophical views. Diderot was a contemporary and friend of Maupertuis, and like him, he was fascinated by the question of how life on Earth had come to be. In his 1769 work D'Alembert's Dream, Diderot put forth a materialist view of life, suggesting that all living things were the product of the complex organization of matter. He proposed that life had emerged from non-living substances through a process of self-organization and gradual complexification. Diderot also hinted at the idea of evolutionary change, writing that the world of the cephalopod might well have been the primitive world, and in the succession of generations the ancient world may have produced the present one, just as the present world may one day produce the future one. While Diderot's ideas about evolution were more philosophical than scientific, they reflected a growing sense among Enlightenment thinkers that the living world was not static and unchanging, but rather the product of a long and dynamic history. As the 18th century gave way to the 19th, the stage was set for a revolution in our understanding of life on Earth. But it would take the tireless work of many scientists, collectors, explorers and thinkers to piece together the complex puzzle of evolution. One such figure was Georges Cuvier, a French zoologist and paleontologist who made pioneering contributions to the fields of comparative anatomy and paleontology. Cuvier was a meticulous observer of the natural world, and his studies of living and fossil organisms led him to propose the concept of catastrophism, the idea that Earth's history had been punctuated by sudden, catastrophic events that wiped out entire groups of species. While Cuvier did not believe in evolution, his work laid important foundations for the field of paleontology and the study of Earth's history. His careful observations of the anatomy of living and fossil organisms revealed patterns of similarity and difference that would later be interpreted as evidence of common descent. Another key figure in the early history of evolutionary thought was Étienne Geoffroy Saint-Hilaire, a French naturalist who developed a theory of transformism, the idea that species could transform into new species over time. Geoffroy Saint-Hilaire believed that the structure of organisms was determined by the environment, and that changes in the environment could lead to changes in the form and function of living things. In 1830, Geoffroy Saint-Hilaire engaged in a famous debate with Cuvier over the question of whether the structure of organisms was fixed and immutable, or whether it could be transformed by environmental influences. While Cuvier emerged victorious in the eyes of most of their contemporaries, Geoffroy Saint-Hilaire's ideas would later be seen as an important precursor to evolutionary theory. As the 19th century progressed, the pace of discovery in the natural sciences accelerated rapidly. Explorers and naturalists ventured to the far corners of the Earth, collecting specimens and observations that would revolutionize our understanding of the living world. One of the most important of these explorers was Alexander von Humboldt, a Prussian polymath who made extensive travels in Latin America and Asia. Humboldt was a keen observer of nature, and his detailed records of the plants, animals, and geography of the regions he visited provided a wealth of new information about the diversity of life on Earth. Humboldt was also one of the first scientists to recognize the interconnectedness of living things and their environment. He proposed the concept of the web of life, suggesting that all organisms were linked together in complex networks of interaction and interdependence. Humboldt's work would have a profound influence on many later scientists, including Charles Darwin, who would draw on Humboldt's observations and ideas in developing his theory of evolution by natural selection. As the 19th century reached its midpoint, the stage was set for a revolution in our understanding of the living world. The tireless work of countless scientists, explorers, and thinkers had revealed the incredible diversity and complexity of life on Earth, and hinted at the processes that might have given rise to it. But it would take the genius of Charles Darwin to synthesize these disparate threads into a coherent theory of evolution, one that would forever change our understanding of our place in the grand story of a life on Earth. Darwin's theory was a triumph of science and reason, but it was also a profoundly human achievement. It emerged from the curiosity, the passion, and the tireless dedication of countless individuals who dared to ask the big questions about the nature of life and the history of our world. As we drift off to sleep, let us dream of those intrepid explorers and visionary thinkers who paved the way for Darwin's great discovery. Let us imagine ourselves walking in their footsteps, observing the wonders of nature with fresh eyes and open minds. And let us remember that the story of evolution is still being written, with each new discovery and insight adding to the rich tapestry of life on Earth. It is a story in which we all share a part, a grand adventure that connects us to the countless generations of living things that have come before us, and to the countless more that will follow. So as we surrender to the embrace of sleep, let us carry with us a sense of wonder and connection to the great unfolding story of life and let us dream of the endless forms most beautiful that evolution has brought into being, and of the endless possibilities that lie ahead. And as we bring our journey through the history of evolutionary thought to a close, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more soothing bedtime stories to help you drift off into peaceful slumber each night. Until next time, sweet dreams and pleasant evolutionary imaginings. Gentle audio fade.